over-the-road semi-truck drivers have turned to the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund when a medical issue took them off the road. St. Christopher steps in by paying necessity household expenses such as mortgage or rent, utilities, insurance, and vehicle payments. Drivers want to get back on the road as quickly as possible, and your support helps make that happen. You can learn more about the SEF or make a donation at truckersfund.org. Support our highway heroes by donating today or consider
Good morning. It's 5 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Well, we're not talking about tornadoes today, thank goodness, but we will still have to deal with some flooding.
Flood warnings and flood advisories for parts of the Tennessee River, the adjacent creeks and streams, and parts of the Cumberland as well. So make sure you know what roadways in your area are closed. And remember, if you do encounter a flooded roadway, to never try to drive through it.
Channel 4 Stefano DiPietro there. And because of the flooding, some school districts have decided to call off classes today. They include Cheatham, Hickman, Houston, Humphreys, Montgomery, and Stewart County schools. And there are some who are opening late as well, so be sure to check with your school early on today. Well, damage assessments are still underway across Tennessee after several weather days in a row. Tennessee Emergency Management Director Patrick Sheehan.
But in the meantime, Tennesseans that have assistance should let us know. So your county emergency management agencies are standing by with their partners. The State Emergency Operations Center and TEMA are standing by with our nonprofit partners to make assistance available.
And he also says to take videos and pictures of any damage and contact your insurance company. Well, you may still be without power this morning. Nashville Electric Service telling us that they're still working to restore power to about 2,000 customers. The storms destroyed or damaged about 55 utility poles. In Southern California, 2 U.S. border inspectors have been charged with taking thousands of dollars in bribes to allow people to enter the country illegally. Investigators said they found phone evidence showing that Farlis Almonte and Ricardo Rodriguez exchanged messages with human traffickers in Mexico. They also found big cash deposits into their bank accounts. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
After a week that saw the S&P 500 lose over $5 trillion in value, and with President Trump steadfast to continue his global tariffs, the question on Wall Street: have we reached the bottom?
This harsh drop in the markets is only fueling fears of a potential recession. J.P. Morgan analysts have now updated their chance of a recession this year to 60%, meaning they think it's more likely than not. And we are starting to see other nations respond to these tariffs. China has now announced in retaliation they'll be imposing an additional 34% tariff on all products that they import from the U.S.
ABC's Trevor Alt on Wall Street. China matching the tariffs, now levying their own on U.S. goods. That's expected to hit American agriculture hard. China takes in 14% of U.S. agricultural exports. With the tariffs going into full force this week, major banks analysts now projecting that the U.S. economy is likely to fall into a recession within the next year. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Stock futures this morning. Oh, boy. We're at Dow. The Dow is down 1,155 points right now in the futures market. The NASDAQ futures, they're down 593. S&P futures minus 156. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
For many of us,
did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Okay, so early on here, we don't have any traffic accidents to tell you about, but there are plenty of roads that are washed out that have some flooding still existing on them this morning. Careful as you drive, and you may want to give yourself a couple of extra minutes if you're not sure if the roads are all okay on your commute. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.506, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. How are you? Monday, April 7th of 2025. And I think, Joan Jones, the headline for today has got to be no rain.
Yeah,
For
that
the
is
first
kind of the
time
headline, right?
in like a week.
Yeah.
We're not looking at any bad weather.
And my power still went out. My power didn't go out. My power did not go out the entire time for the storm. Handled it fine. This morning, it went off. Power went off. My oven started to beep because of the clock.
Right.
And then my smoke detector kept beeping.
Oh, that's the worst.
And I try to reset it, and it makes those noises. And I just was like, I kept bothering my neighbors. And I just said, all right, I'm going to stop this and just hope for the best. And then when it started back up, it stopped.
So KGB's power goes out after the storm.
Yes.
Well,
sorry,
so
man.
they were saying that there's some utility poles that came down. 55 utility poles came down during the storm system, that's passed over this several days. So that's likely that's going to happen in some spots where they're still working on getting the lines restored.
Do we know how many folks are still without power after this weekend's horrible, horrible storms?
Well, NES says about 2,000.
Okay.
So, I mean, there may be more. Of course, there's other utilities.
KGB
but
makes 2001.
Yeah.
After 3 hours, okay, so the power went out at midnight, and it came back on at like 2 in the morning, and I had to get up at 3.
Okay.
So
The good news is you got here.
That's
And
exactly right.
I have no
we're very happy
choice.
about
It's a
that.
win-win.
Yeah.
We're blessed with happy KGB this morning.
Well, he
Coffee's
didn't say
helping.
anything about being happy. He just said he was here.
Well, that's my own spin on it because, I'm a narrative peddler. That's what I am. Speaking of which,
This is what kicking the shit out of fascism looks like.
that is, of course, Fang Fang's boy toy, Eric Swalwell. And the whole hands-off protest or whatever it was this weekend. And, it's interesting, Joan, because you would think at this point that these jackholes on the other side of the aisle would understand that the whole fascism thing
This is what kicking the shit out of fascism looks like.
would understand that calling Trump a fascist is just not going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing. So you have these content creators, and I love this. And by the way, millions and millions of people across the country. No, I don't believe that every single one of them were paid, but I think that there was a lot of paid organizers, and I think that there was a lot of folks that were there, number one, to be paid. Number two, I think that they really didn't understand what they were doing out there. Case in point, by the way, I just posted this on social media. Follow me on X, at Dan Mandas Show. One guy was walking around one of these hands-off rallies, and of course, they're saying hands off our Social Security, hands off this, hands off that, blah, blah, blah. It's just the same old crap. And so guy walks around, and he's asking one person, two guys, actually, okay, so you have a sign that says that Donald Trump is a fascist. What exactly makes Donald Trump a fascist?
What makes Trump a fascist?
He does things without I'm not really good into interviews.
Sorry?
He just does everything he wants and not following laws or he's a convicted felon, that's all I know.
All right, so let's just go through that. He does what he wants. He is a convicted felon. But here's the thing, is that, number one, this guy had no idea why Donald Trump is a fascist, and I'm air quoting that. But here's the whole thing about the convicted felon. People don't care. I mean, Donald Trump was was elected even though the left was peddling this whole narrative of he is a convicted felon. And that whole thing was BS. I don't want to go backwards. But even so, what makes Donald Trump a fascist? You know, like white power and Nazism and all that stuff?
But your sign says he's a fascist, and I'm just curious what makes him a fascist.
Well, one of the things is that he's trying to control the media, right?
Say that again?
He's trying to control the narrative.
How is he trying to control the media? Doesn't every president try to control the narrative?
They try to control their own narrative, but one of the things that Trump's has done, for example, is the renaming the Gulf of Mexico, and then not allowing the Associated Press to come into the White House.
All right, so let's talk about this. One by one, Trump is trying to control the narrative. Everybody does that. Every politician does that. And so that doesn't make him a fascist. If that makes Donald Trump a fascist, well, then every politician out there, especially Democrats, are fascists. Trump won't allow the Associated Press into the White House. Well, that's debatable because they do have some access, but they have had their access restricted. But other media outlets have had their access increased, especially new media. The Associated Press refused to acknowledge that Trump renamed the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America, which was official legislation. That has been changed. And so the president did refuse. He has restricted now access specifically to one agency, the Associated Press. Okay, that doesn't make him a fascist. That doesn't mean that he is trying to control the media. And by the way, Biden did the same thing. Joe Biden, let's not forget, revoked the press credentials of many. I think there's hundreds of journalistic organizations. Also, by the way, can we also remind folks that Obama's administration literally spied on the Associated Press? So I think that you have these folks that are out there have absolutely no real perspective on what makes Donald Trump a fascist. I think that is painfully obvious.
You're calling him a fascist.
Yeah, well,
what makes him a fascist?
One of the core tenets of fascism is creating an enemy, right? And blaming those problems on the enemy.
What's that?
Oh, yeah,
So
the paper gave me, yeah.
Who gave you that?
The people that gave me the sign. It's a free sign.
Oh, someone gave you the sign, and then they gave you the handout. So are you reading it now to try to answer the question?
Yeah, but
So this guy is holding a sign, and the sign basically says Donald Trump is a fascist, and he has all of these talking points that they gave him. So if anybody asks you a question, just read your notes. But the guy brought up the tenets of fascism, right? So I actually was curious. Let's look up the tenets of fascism. And so I grokked it. You ever do this, Joan? You grok?
I love grok. You introduced me to grok, and now I can't stop grokking.
I love grokking. So coming up after the traffic report, we are going to go through the official tenets of fascism, and I'm going to prove to you that literally Donald Trump is the exact opposite of every single tenet of fascism. Details straight ahead. 5:15. Time to check the roads on WTN.
One accident now. It's in Hermitage. It's on Central Pike at South New Hope Road. And this one does involve some injuries. Also, just be advised that we're still dealing with flooding on some roadways this morning. And if you don't know whether it's flooded out on your way to work, give yourself a couple of extra minutes to find out. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Now, Joan, I need you in every single traffic report to say, turn around, don't drown.
Oh, my gosh, if you don't know that already.
Every single traffic report.
All right. Turn around, don't drown. For heaven's sakes.
You're right, Joan. If people don't know it by now. You know what the thing, we'll talk about this later. People are. They're driving through massive ponds on the roadways.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about that at 5:35. So what makes a fascist? Because you got all these, people all across the country. They say that they had these hands-off rallies or protests in every state. Did you know that Elizabeth Warren was actually here in Nashville? That's right. Some of the media were very excited that Pocahontas was actually here.
And we just thought it was tornadoes.
What a zinger to start the day.
That was actually good. Very good, Joan. Do you like Pocahontas? Do you like Pocahontas? What do you like with because I've got all these different names that I like to call Elizabeth Warren. And
yeah, I think they're all good.
They're all apropos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So here's the thing. When you have Eric Swalwell.
This is what kicking the shit out of fascism looks like.
Let's look at the tenets of fascism. I grokked it. Authoritarian leadership. A central charismatic leader that holds absolute power, often portrayed as infallible and embodying the nation's will. Well, no, because we have the House of Representatives, we have the Senate, and we have the judges that are blocking Trump. And Donald Trump has come out, and his administration has come out, and they've said, we will not defy the judges. So how is Donald Trump an authoritarian leader? He's not. Is he charismatic? Well, of course he is. He's a politician. Is he a central charismatic leader? Well, he's the president of the United States. That doesn't make him a fascist. Trump is working with the House. He is working with the Senate. And yes, the Republicans hold majorities in both. However, we do know that obviously Donald Trump has been facing roadblocks with these judges, and he is respecting the judicial process. That is the exact opposite of what they're accusing him of. They talk about nationalism, extreme emphasis on national identity, superiority, and unity, often tied to myths of past greatness or racial purity, rejecting multiculturalism. Really? Because doesn't Donald Trump have an incredibly broad base of support? Hasn't Donald Trump literally doubled his support from previous elections from the black community, for example, from Hispanics as well? I mean, that is one of Donald Trump's, in my opinion, in the last election, one of his biggest accomplishments is doubling the support from minority communities. And it's not a crime to want to make America great again or talk about how great our country is. That doesn't make you a fascist. That makes you an American. Suppression of dissent. They talk about suppression of opposition, political, media, or individual is crushed through censorship, propaganda, or violence to maintain control and loyalty. Isn't it literally the fact that you had all of these massive protests all across the country in great numbers prove that Donald Trump is not a fascist? Because if he is suppressing dissent or opposition, then he's going to have his military crushing all of those people in Washington, D.C. They had a massive protest. Where was the military? If Donald Trump is a fascist, he's got the military out there crushing dissent, but he did not do that. I mean, what I'm doing, if you're just joining us, is you've got all of these jackholes out there saying Donald Trump is a fascist, and I'm proving that he's not by looking at the tenets of fascism and explaining how he is actually the opposite of everything that they're talking about. Militarism, glorification of war and military strength as expressions of national vitality, with society often organized along martial lines. Donald Trump is actually trying to prevent war. Isn't Donald Trump trying to stop the war between Russia and Ukraine? Absolutely he is. Has Donald Trump, did he have any wars in his, started in his first administration? No wars in that first administration. And here he is now trying to stop wars in his second administration. Cult of tradition, reverence for a romanticized past, rejecting today's progressive aspects while co-opting tradition to justify policy. No, I don't think that's Donald Trump at all. Anti-liberalism, rejection of democracy, rejection of individual freedoms and paramilitary systems, parliamentary systems in favor of centralized hierarchical governance. Donald Trump is actually, and conservatives are like this, Donald Trump is trying to increase freedoms, not take them away. Economic corporatism, a state-directed economy where private enterprise exists but is subordinated to national goals, often through collaboration between government and industry elites. No. Donald Trump is all about deregulation. Donald Trump is all about the free market. Trump wants the government out of business. All of this is so obvious to me. Number 9, another example or tenet of fascism, propaganda and symbolism, heavy use of media, rallies, and other things to unify the populace and promote the regime's ideology. No party benefited from propaganda more than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The media was literally on his side and covering for him his entire presidency. So if you'd like to talk about propaganda, and look at what we're seeing right now. All across America this morning on all the morning shows, one of the lead stories is going to be all about these hands-off rallies that, in my opinion, are nothing but propaganda. They talk about scapegoating, blaming societal problems on external or internal enemies. They talk about minorities and communists and foreigners, etc., to rally support and justify repression. I'm going to reject that. Trump has accurately pinpointed a problem that America has with illegal immigration. And it is a big problem. And by the way, if you're going to use that as an example of fascism, then you're calling the vast majority of Americans fascist. Rejection of equality, promotion of a natural hierarchy where certain groups based on class, race, or loyalty are deemed superior, opposing egalitarian ideals. And again, I'm not buying that one either, because what Donald Trump simply wants is all Americans. And he has said this ad nauseum. All Americans should be able to succeed to achieve the American dream. That's what Donald Trump is trying to do. So you look at all of these tenets of fascism and you realize that all of these folks and these rallies have no flippin' clue as to what they're talking about.
And then they gave you the handout. So are you reading it now to try to answer the question?
Yeah, but I mean...
Can I see that? Can you hold that up? I'm just curious.
Maybe you can have it.
I can have it?
Yeah, you can have it.
Alrighty. So where did you get the sign?
All the way in the gatekeeper's house.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just pretty cool.
And that's another one? They gave you 2 pieces of paper?
Yeah.
Can I have that one too?
Yes, you can have both.
Oh.
So the guys actually had signs that they are supposed to be reading from, and I don't think they knew what the heck they were talking about. The Democrats and their partners in the propaganda-laden media are trying to do everything they can to take out Donald Trump, and in my opinion, try to make a lot over these hands-off rallies or protests, whatever it is that you want to call them. But to me, it just does seem like a lot of propaganda. Anyway, 5:23. Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Joan.
Yeah, 4 to 6 inches of rain over the past few days, and it's causing rivers to run over their banks. Also, we are bracing for impact on Wall Street once again today. We've got those stories and more coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:29. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. Super text line alive and kicking this morning. By the way, watch us on YouTube, Facebook, X, 997WTN.com, and communicate either there or on the Super text line, which is 615-737-9986. Joan, did you hear what happened at 3 o'clock on this radio station?
Oh, no.
You didn't you didn't hear what happened to the ABC News anchor?
No.
I'm trying to figure out a way to do this so that we don't get fined by the FCC. But a super texter, okay, don't say it now.
Okay.
A super texter asked me if I happened to hear the 3 o'clock newscast on WTM.
Chuckle. Yeah.
So we're going to talk at WTN. Did I say WTM? I think I did. WTN.
Do you know where you work?
We're clearly at NTW 77.9.
You know, the question is, yes, I know where I work, but does upper management know that I work here? I think that's the bigger question.
Relevant question.
It is a relevant question.
We're going to get a meeting soon.
It is 5:30, Nashville's Morning News on WTN.
Good morning, 5:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Well, the rain is gone, but the flooding continues in the Nashville area. TEMA Director Patrick Sheehan tells Channel 4 that these issues may impact your commute all this week.
It's going to take quite a bit of time for that water to recede. In some places, it could take weeks. So if you have roads that are covered in water, we ask that you turn around and don't drown.
Well, there it is. There are some washed out roads still covered in water this morning. Some areas received between 4 and 6 inches of rain over the weekend. A federal judge over the weekend ordered the Trump administration to return a Maryland father mistakenly deported to a prison in El Salvador by midnight tonight. It appears, though, Attorney General is now prepared to argue that decision. Here's ABC's Rhiannon Nally.
The judge says the government has given no proof that Abrego Garcia was a gang member. The Trump administration is asking an appeals court to intervene, arguing because Abrego Garcia is in El Salvador, they cannot demand his return. And they say the judge has no power to order the U.S. government to even negotiate his return.
Abrego Garcia is a Salvadoran national in the U.S. since 2012. In 2019, he was deemed a danger because of his ties to the MS-13 gang, and he was detained for months. But a judge ultimately decided that he would face persecution by another gang if he were deported back to El Salvador, where he came from illegally into the U.S. He was allowed to stay here in 2019. Well, this could be a rough ride on Wall Street today.
Investors bracing for another sell-off on Wall Street. Some warning of a Black Monday. Stock futures overnight plunging 1,500 points after the worst two-day stretch for stocks since the pandemic. Asian markets taking a nosedive today. Japan down more than 8%.
ABC's Allison Kosick reporting the Dow futures right now minus 917. That's the latest news, traffic and weather still to come here. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Let's see here. Have not had the opportunity to say good morning to the YouTubers. Hello, YouTubers. Hello, folks watching on X, 997WTN.com, Facebook as well. Only have a second here. I'm going to try something really dumb. I'm warning you now. I'm going to try something really dumb. And I want to see if Joan gets the joke. I want to see if Joan and KGB get the joke. Because you know when I do dumb stuff, and I do it often, this is going to be one of those. It's all fine, well, and good. I'm going to try it here in the 5 o'clock hour. And if they find it humorous, then I'll continue on the rest of the morning. If not, I'll put it by the wayside. I forget, what did we do, KGB, for the poll, the daily? Do you believe? How did we word it? Think. You. What did you say? How did you word it? How did you word it? Well, I told you to word it like, do you believe, well, I'm a little wordy. Of course, everybody knows. Do you believe that these protests are a legitimate sign that Donald Trump is in trouble? All right, so what are people saying?
84 say no.
I'm rolling my eyes. I'm rolling my eyes at KGB. Whatever. 84. Too old. All right, so 84% say no, which means that 16% say yeah. All right. All right. We coming back? All right, so I'm going to do something stupid. And let's see if Joan and KGB appreciate my Dan humor. It's all coming up.
Still working that accident scene in Hermitage on Central Pike at South New Hope Road. There is a crash as well in Edge Hill, 8th Avenue South at Chestnut Street, and another one on Rural Hill, Bell Road at Edge O'Lake Drive. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.537, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. How are you? How are you? Monday, April 7th. KGB needs some audio. And did everyone have a good weekend other than all of the rain?
Oh, yeah. Weekends are always good.
Weekends are always good, sure.
I
wasn't able to relax until Sunday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because my Friday was spent looking at the weather, and to be honest, I can't remember if we were on the air Friday or not. But
we were.
Were we on Friday night?
Well, I
monitoring the storms.
Oh, not monitoring the storms. I was here until 7 o'clock last Friday night, so I was exhausted.
Whatever. Anyway, so
I was warning though.
We but you know, if you're like my position, just so folks know, my position is when we have bad weather coming in, I worry about all kinds of things, including having to cover it, you know, being on the air and covering it. That's number one. And number two, then all that entails, which is, do we have a producer and all of these other things. So it was interesting, though, Joan. This is from and I want to explain this. This is from the No Good Deed Goes Unpunished. A guy on Twitter, and I didn't care because I needed to set him straight. But a guy on Twitter said that apparently the hosts at 99.7 only cover storms when it hits where they live, right? Which is silly.
Yeah, that is.
So I don't know if you saw that. So, and he tagged me, Murphy Show, and Chris Hand. So I had explained to him, because we were on the air for I think about 2 or 3 hours on Saturday night, covering the storms.
Mm-hmm.
And then when all the tornado warnings expired, then we called it a day. The storms were moving east.
Yeah.
You still had storms, and you still had severe thunderstorms going on south of Nashville, like Spring Hill and so forth. But those were, exactly as I said, those were severe thunderstorms. They weren't tornadic in nature. So just so folks know, what we do is if there is a tornado warning, then we go on the air. We go on live. And by the way, I believe that we're one of the only radio stations that does that anymore.
Yep.
And we started doing that about 6 years ago. And the great thing about WTN is we have all these hosts now. Me, of course, and Brian, who's retired, but he still loves doing that stuff. Matt Murphy is incredible at it. Chris Hand, Chad Benson as well. Joan and Ken Weaver, of course, you two are also jumping into the mix. So we have an entire on-air staff who is ready and willing at a moment's notice to jump on the radio and tell people where these storms are, where they're headed, et cetera. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So a guy gets on, and as I said, he starts popping off on Twitter and is like, well, apparently they only cover storms where they live. And no, we cover storms when there's a tornado warning. If it's only, thunderstorms like lightning, thunder, heavy rain, even straight line winds, I understand that those are important, but that is not a tornado. So that's what we do. And, and the guy, once I explained that, he apologized, so that's fine. But I just want to let people know we take this stuff very seriously. But you know what the great thing is, Joan?
What is it?
You know what's in the forecast now?
Sunshine.
And no rain.
Oh, I see.
You see what I did there?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll give you that one.
All right, good. I got a thumbs up from Joan. Yeah. KGB, how are you? You going to give it to me that's pretty good? Hey, what's in the forecast? No rain.
Just a
I don't
sigh.
think, yeah.
Whatever. You know what?
I mean, it's A for effort. I'm going to give you that. I'll give you an A for effort because I think I appreciate always a good soundbite.
So do I do this during my weather forecast the rest of the day? Do I just have fun with it? Joan, what do you say?
I love it. Go for it.
Joan loves it. See, here's what I think, though. I think that Joan likes when I make a fool out of myself. So she's like a double.
I'm trying to help you.
Joan's like a double secret agent.
Yeah.
Dan, I'm going to give you...
Keep doing it because you make the rest of us look good.
I'm going to give you a great example. My father tells me when I need to hear, not what I want to hear. I'm like that for you. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Sure. Joan, KGB and I were having a fascinating conversation before the show even started.
Yeah.
You know what KGB said to me?
What did he say to you, Dan?
Because I have turned into a big tub of goo. Like that's what I feel like right now with my body.
Right.
I am a big tub of goo. You know what KGB said to me? I'm going to assume he was not trying to hit on me. He said, dad bods are actually in. Did you know that, Joan, that dad bods are actually in? I had no idea.
Sure.
Joan's like, yeah, not so much.
I have the proof.
I don't know who they're in with. But no.
Maybe women with mom bods. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
You'd be surprised. People my age are not like, again, I think girls like dad bods that are my age because you're allowed to eat a little bit. They know you can pig out and they know you can, because dad bod isn't like a huge gut anymore. It's like a half and half of like you're active, but you also can let loose a little bit.
So I want to make sure. So having a six-pack is no longer in.
No, you can have a six-pack.
Let me do the joke, KGB.
Okay.
So I want to make sure I got this right. I hate when he steps on my jokes.
I know.
So I want to make sure I have this right. So having a six-pack is no longer in. It's looking like you've drunk a six-pack is actually in.
That was what we were waiting for? Come on. That was good. That was good. Okay, I'll give you that.
Whatever. You know what? You guys are just... I think you two need to go back to bed.
That's like the tune
I came in ready.
That's like the tune of a 90s sitcom where like something like dramatic happens and they go to commercial. It's like that kind of like tune going to the commercial.
Sure. Anyway, all right. So, Joan, give me your opinion on the hands-off rallies from this weekend. Number one, I didn't really pay much attention to them other than, Pocahontas was here. Elizabeth Warren was here.
So then I think I was a level under that because I didn't even know she was here. And P.S., I just don't care. Don't block my traffic. Say all you want.
Yeah.
Have your First Amendment rights. Just don't block my traffic.
So I don't want to continue on the whole, everybody here hates Phil Williams thing, Channel 5.
Yeah.
But I will point out that he was literally giddy on X.
Oh, my
If you look at his social media, we'll pull up Phil Williams on X, KGB.
I'm on it.
And scroll down, and he says something to the effect of, Elizabeth Warren is in Nashville. And with a little video, but he's got an exclamation point. It's like, dude, Elizabeth Warren is not worth an exclamation point, right? He seemed a little excited. For those of you who are still trying to figure out whether Phil is left or right, clearly, if you believe that Elizabeth Warren being in Nashville is exclamation point worthy, you're definitely on the left. Am I wrong in that assertion?
No, you're right.
Joan?
No.
No,
You're
I'm
not wrong. I'm just reading some of his
Yeah, you want to hear his latest post? Because this one's pretty funny.
blather. It's
Sure.
blather.
MAGA types are upset that I posted pics from Nashville's hands-off rally. Now I am getting messages of disapproval from liberals because I started that I had gone there because of rumors that hate groups might be present. Someone else was covering the event for News Channel 5.
There was a hate group present. All those progressives.
Yeah.
They hate conservatives.
I'm a bit exasperated with people right now. So he's getting upset at people for being critical of him.
Here you go. I love this. So that post that you said, Elizabeth Warren takes the stage in Nashville, exclamation point. And he says, I'm not there. This was sent by a source. Add your photos, videos, thoughts, and the replies. Of course, the replies are always,
Was he
this is where the
ratioed?
gold. Yeah, I think so. Some of it's not very nice.
It was at a high school gym.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Somebody said, did she come on the Trail of Tears?
Ha! Oh! That's good.
Yes, that's funny as all
Sorry,
get out.
Liz. The Native Americans were forced out a long time ago. She makes me sick. What a fool she is.
Well, and listen, just so we're clear, all these folks, they have a constitutional right to do what they do. And I think the reaction to Phil Williams is that, not to belabor the point, but he proclaims to be a journalist who is supposed to be neither left nor right, supposed to be just report the facts, and he gives so much opinion. His exclamation point says everything you need to know about how he feels about Elizabeth Warren. He was very excited that she was here. Whatever. But don't call yourself a journalist if you're clearly biased. And
these are gold. You ready? Pocahontas must have done a rain dance. Wow, a crowd of dozens for Pocahontas. Is this her version of a powwow?
Oh, my God. You know what I should have done?
Is she here to talk about her Indian heritage?
You know what I should have done? I should have actually incorporated all of those jokes into my monologue about these things. They just completely ripped these people off. Because this is golden. Any more?
Yeah. Why no headdress?
Yeah, I was about to say that one. That one's good.
Did she walk in like this? And it's a video of a man, obviously an Indian man, doing a rain dance in full.
Wow.
She's also like walking and waving, and people are like, oh, a Nazi salute.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
How
yeah.
dare she?
She's heiling Hitler. Yeah, way to go, Phil.
Is Phil turning more and more into Keith Olbermann by the day?
No, I don't. I don't think so.
I don't think you can get that far. But
I don't think he'll ever get that far. I just think that he's got a bit of a lack of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is. Because, and we've talked about him ad nauseum, and whatever, but I just think that he has lost focus on what people look to him for. People look to him for, unabashed reporting and not advocating for or against a side when it comes to politics. And it's clear that, at least to me, and through his social media and so forth, that he advocates for the left and against, Donald Trump, and conservatives, which is, if that's his political bent, that's fine. But reporters, you're not supposed to know where they lean politically. And it is obvious to me that he leans to the left. Whatever. And before you say, well, Mandis, what about you? I'm not a journalist. And I've said that 1,000 times. I'm not a journalist.
Exactly.
You're just a dude that wanders into our studio.
He also posted, and it's funny that he posted this because he's admitting to something that's obviously an issue. He said, for those detractors who occasionally post snide comments encouraging me to retire, ... and he goes on, there's an admission there that people are saying, hey, buddy, maybe it's time to step aside.
No, I don't think it's time for him to retire. He's unfocused. He's lost his way. That's my thing.
He's not just unfocused, but he's unbalanced.
Yes.
He's lost his balance completely, and he's not able to be down the middle of the road guy that he's supposed to be. He's fallen off.
You tried to give him the benefit of the doubt before. You were like, he used to be good, and then it doesn't happen anymore.
I did. I had him in the studio. And you know what? When I had him in the studio, and I thought he and I had a great conversation, but I got a lot of hate for that. But I always thought that he used to be a great reporter. And I'm sure that at times he is still a great reporter. The problem is he has tarnished and tainted his reputation by going totally anti-conservative, pro-progressive, when a real reporter isn't supposed to show political bias. And I didn't mind if he was going after Republicans. I thought that he was right when he said, listen, all of the Republicans, the state of Tennessee, Republicans are the party in power. So if it looks like I'm going after Republicans, it's because they are the party in power. Okay, I can buy that. But the thing is, now he is showing political bias against Republicans. So when he does that, then it calls into question those previous comments as to what his motivations are. Is he investigating Republicans because they really are the party in power, or does he go after Republicans because he doesn't like Republicans?
He's just one of those casualties of Trump derangement syndrome. There's so many journalists that have that.
He also said he only went down to those protests because he heard that there were going to be, white supremacists and hate groups out there, and he was looking for them, and he didn't find them. So it's just, I think, why is it that if there's a rally of people that he's looking for white supremacists? Are they going to wear a name tag? I'm a white supremacist.
Phil Williams sees white supremacists in his sleep.
Yeah.
He dreams about white supremacists. It's like he's trying to make it happen. Listen, I'm not denying that there are white supremacists in America. Obviously, there are. But at least to me, he goes on these tangents, and he's going to these political rallies to find white supremacists. Really? Who told you white supremacists were going to be there?
He said
by the way, given the fact that there were no white supremacists there, is that proof that Phil Williams is overstating the existence of white supremacy, I'm air quoting, in Tennessee?
Let's be real. That word has been watered down anyways. It's just you vote for Trump means white supremacists.
Absolutely has been watered down. Okay, so the 3 o'clock in the morning newscast on WTN.
Yes.
I don't know who the anchor is. And listen, I will tell you, I am the king of misspeaking. So I just want to get that out right now.
We have proof.
The proof is all on the computer. But the guy is talking about New York City. But the ABC News anchor says New York, and he replaced the word city with
itty.
T. Yeah. He said that, and is like, and I started laughing. I'm driving in, and
I did too.
Laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel sorry for the guy because he's not the usual lunatic that's on overnights. Who's the lunatic that's always?
God, that you're not narrowing it down.
Oh, Richard Cantu.
He's not Richard Cantu.
So I haven't heard him in a
guy.
while. I think he may be done.
Oh, really?
I haven't heard him in a while.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know that to be true, but
Joan and I know from experience when we have to do ABC News like audio clips, we have to make sure we have to cut up some of them because they put in their biased little 2 cents out of nowhere, and you're like, well, we can't use this because they're just making it into an opinion piece instead of news.
Yep, that's exactly right. Okay, well, let's see here. Snark says, "Good morning, Dan the Man," on YouTube. I'm watching the YouTube channel, trying to avoid me and just seeing what people are saying on the YouTube channel.
They love you on there. Don't get me wrong.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate that. People are talking about with Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
Thomas Sowell has come out in an interview against these tariffs. Listen, just so everybody knows, I'm not denying that there are a lot of people that are worried about these tariffs. I totally get it. My official talk show host position on all this is I don't know what's going to happen. And most people don't because we've never done worldwide tariffs like this. But this is what Donald Trump wants to do. And if this is what Trump wants to do, then okay. And we'll have to see ultimately what happens. By the way, coming up right after the news at 6, I got a whole thing on tariffs and what people are saying about the tariffs. Real quick, Joan, I know the futures for today, market opens at 8:30, but the futures are looking rather bleak.
However, yeah, but here's the funny thing. This morning, the first newscast, so at 5 o'clock, the futures, the Dow futures were down more than 1,100 points. Right now, they're down 692. So there's a lot of
rebounding.
Yeah, there's a lot of. Well, I don't know if it's rebounding, but in the futures markets, you don't see a lot of trading. So a tiny move can look huge. So it perhaps may not be as bad as we were expecting. Still remains to be seen. We have,
Listen, here's the
quite a
thing.
while.
The market goes up and the market goes down.
Yes, it does.
And you know what the thing is? Sometimes it rains and sometimes
Oh, my goodness.
we have no rain. And we've gone full circle.
You know what? That was good. Well done.
Thank you. It is 5:56. Joan Jones has the news at 6. Joan, what's coming up?
Yeah, we'll tell you which rivers are still rising after our intense storms. Also, the faint of heart should avoid peaking at their 401ks again today. We'll get into depth a little bit with what's happening on Wall Street in the futures market. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning, 6 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. So the forecast is pleasant for the first time in days, but the impact of our storms remains. Flooding has impacted wastewater treatment plants in Humphreys, Robertson, Henry, and Decatur counties. And power outages, too. They're a problem today. NES is reporting about 2,200 customers are still in the dark this morning. Well, the Cumberland River in Clarksville is running high, cresting at the moderate flood stage. Forecasters do expect, though, the water levels to begin to recede today. The Duck River in Centerville, that's still rising at the moderate flood stage. And the Tennessee River also rising, that one, however, in the minor stage for now. The worst of the storms pounded Tennessee on Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and now TEMA is confirming there were 10 people who died as a result of the storms, all of them in West Tennessee, and the bulk of them occurring in McNairy County. And gardeners, listen up. If you've already put your plants in, you'll want to know this. We are expecting a frost tonight and tomorrow night around here as colder weather settles in after these storms have passed by. Other news of the day, a violent attack on a family in New York City over the weekend.
An 11-year-old called 911 Sunday morning and said she and her relatives had been stabbed by their uncle. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said when officers arrived, they heard screams and forced their way inside.
They encountered a man standing near the entrance holding a large meat cleaver covered in blood, and they could see blood on the floor and the walls of the home.
Officers shot the man, who was taken to a hospital. The 4 victims all expected to survive. Brian Clark, ABC News, New York.
Market numbers now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
Stock markets look like they're going to start the week right where they left off, diving again. Futures pointing to a sell-off at the opening bell with the next round of President Trump's tariffs on the way. Last week's drops wiped out over $6.5 trillion worth of value. Goldman Sachs now puts the odds of the U.S. economy slipping into recession sometime in the next year at around 45%, up 25 points from last month. One of the first places you may see the tariffs hit is the grocery aisle. Experts say about half the items in a typical grocery store will be impacted in some way. They point to heavily imported products like seafood, coffee, bananas, and olive oil as prime candidates for early price hikes. Trade groups are also warning about the effects on our clothes budget. 97% of the clothes and shoes purchased in the U.S. are made overseas. Wayne Cabot, ABC News.
Now, Dow futures right now down 794. NASDAQ futures falling 374. We've got S&P futures minus 102. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. 24 in the westbound lanes. This is at the eastern split. You've got an obstruction reported on the off-ramp. Traffic has just begun to move again. Looks like it may have been cleared away. Just keep your eye on that spot this morning. And a crash to tell you about Rural Hill on Bell Road at Edge O Lake Drive. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.606 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into your Monday, April 7th of 2025. President Donald Trump has just posted to his social medias regarding, of course, all the hysteria going on right now regarding tariffs. He says, and I've got some great audio from Scott Bessent coming up, Treasury Secretary, oil prices are down, interest rates are down. The slow-moving Fed should cut rates, the president says. Food prices are down. There is no inflation, and the long-time abused USA is bringing in billions of dollars a week from the abusing countries on tariffs that are already in place. This is despite the fact, the president says, that the biggest abuser of them all, China, whose markets are crashing, just raised its tariffs by 34% on top of its long-term, ridiculously high tariffs, plus not acknowledging my warning for abusing countries not to retaliate. The president saying on the socials, they've made enough for decades, taking advantage of the good old USA. Our past leaders, he says in quotation marks, are to blame for allowing this and so much else to happen to our country. Make America great again. And this was about 20 minutes ago, Joan. He posted that to the socials. So that is Donald Trump up early, and he's been very active in defending. Need some audio, KGB.
The man never sleeps, by the way.
No, he never sleeps. And he's been very active in defending his tariffs, as has Scott Bessent. The markets, of course, last week they took a bit of a beating. Losing trillions in value. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he was on Meet the Press, and this is part of what he had to say as the Trump administration, as they should be, they're out in full force defending the tariffs and try to tell the American people the bigger vision.
Look, we get these short-term market reactions from time to time. The market consistently, underestimates Donald Trump. I remember that in 2016, the night President Trump won, the market crashed. And it turned out he was going to be the most pro-business president in over a century, maybe in the history of the country. And we went on to very high after inflation returns for the next 4 years.
So one of the things to remember, because people are pointing to the markets, oh my gosh, we haven't seen a drop like this since COVID in 2020. Right. And the point is the market will also recover. You can't panic at the first sign that we're having some problems. You just can't. Donald Trump is trying to reshape our economy. And so as the president continues doing what he feels like he needs to do to get America on, frankly, a better track, we are $37 trillion in debt. And so the markets, I believe, will recover. I'm not an economist. Trust me on that one. But you know what? I do understand that there's a lot of people, including Thomas Sowell. I'm going to see if I can find that interview. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say, oh, I know for sure that everything's going to be okay. But I believe that they will. There's a lot of economists that believe that everything will be okay, that the market will recover, that when you when you put all of the ingredients of Donald Trump's economic plan together, it will ultimately be a win for the American people. But there is another side. And there are some economists that are out there, many economists that are out there, that believe that Donald Trump is not doing the right thing. We've never done this before, folks. That's the whole point. So anybody, whether they're talk show hosts, whether they're economists, and they're going to sit here and say, they know, they know, they know. They don't know. Because there really is no historical perspective as to what Donald Trump is doing. But the other thing to remember is that the markets can always come back, and you don't lose unless you sell. You know, if you're looking at your 401k, you don't lose until you sell. That's the other big thing. But the markets dropped when Trump won the election in 2016. They came roaring back after COVID as well. And I believe that they're going to come back here as well. Part of this discussion has to be that Joe Biden was the one who had us with interest rates, inflation, well over 9%, along with all of the other issues like spending, adding to the national debt. So Scott Bessent, you know, he's right when he says,
what we are looking at is building the long-term economic fundamentals for prosperity that I think the previous administration had put us on a course toward financial calamity.
Right. He is absolutely right. Trump's new economy is based on, and let's just go through all of this again, lower taxes, less government spending, better trading deals with the world, income through tariffs, more manufacturing jobs at home, which means more Americans working, more Americans spending, helping our economy churn. You know, a few headlines that I found over the weekend, you know, Trump says that over 50 countries have called him asking to negotiate. Now, that dynamic, I think it's really interesting, is going to be that countries are going to now be competing for the best deal with America. So China, and I'm just going to use this as an example. China might say, look, you're giving Vietnam a great deal. How do we get that deal? And then Trump and his team can start to negotiate and field offers. That is good. It's all about the art of the deal. This was on Meet the Press. Again, Scott Bessent and Kirsten Welker going back and forth. And she keeps asking him. Kirsten Welker keeps asking Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, how long will America be going through these issues? How long will the markets be crashing? And Scott Bessent said, listen, as long as it takes.
You know, we're going to hold the course, and this has been years in the building, years in the making. You know, this unsustainable system, our trading partners have taken advantage of us. We can see that through the large surpluses. We can see this through the large budget deficits. And also, Kristen, this is a national security problem, which we saw during COVID. We saw during COVID that optimal supply chains are not resilient. Yep. And what I could say is the only good outcome from COVID is it was a beta test for what would happen if our supply chains got broken.
He's absolutely right. I want you to think about this. Because a lot of the media, they're only going to focus on the stock market. That's all they're going to focus on. But let's think about what he's referring to, the supply chain issues. Remember everything that we talked about years ago during COVID. China had massive lockdowns after the virus escaped from one of their labs, right, in Wuhan. So China makes a lot of stuff, especially electronics, medical supplies. So they have a major lockdown, and suddenly all production stops. So things like medicine, PPE, personal protection equipment, and other necessary items, they were gone. And so when the Treasury Secretary says that when we rely too much on other countries, and then when something bad happens, like a virus escapes from one of their labs, then America is incredibly vulnerable. So that's a big part of this conversation. So when Bessent says it's a national security issue, he is absolutely right. Got a lot more straight ahead. 6:15, time to check the roads on WTN. Thank you very much. As far as your weather goes, looks like it's going to be a nice week. Weather today, a high of 60 and cloudy. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So Scott Bessent talking about the supply chain issues. Remember the other part of this, which was that when all of this was going on, COVID, he's referring to COVID, that countries were battling for what was being manufactured, what was being made, and it did. It caused absolute and complete chaos. So for America to be able to manufacture more of what we need just makes sense. It does make sense from a supply chain issue, and it also makes sense from a national security issue.
And President Trump has decided that we cannot be at risk like that for our crucial medicines, for semiconductors, for shipping, and we are going to move forward so the American people can know that they are going to have a more secure future.
Right, and the point being is that if Trump is able to effectively open up manufacturing here in this country, we'll have less of an issue moving forward if we have another Chinese-related virus that decimates the world. Now, the stock market, yes, people understandably freaking out. I understand why. Scott Bessent, though, he says that while the numbers look scary, and they do, they look scary, the reality is that over the long haul, this is going to be a blip if all goes according to plan.
People have a long-term view. They have a program that the reason the stock market is considered a good investment is because it's a long-term investment. If you look day to day, week to week, it's very risky. Over the long term, it's a good investment.
And, you know, Paul Winkler, of course, the guy that I work with, I'm always preaching about him and what he preaches. He talks about long-term, and he is right. He is also right about being diversified big time. That's what Scott Bessent and many others say as well.
And if we look at data from President Trump's first term, and there's a big study that just came out from a group of economists, mostly at MIT, that showed that a 20% tariff on China led to a 0.7% price level increase over 4 years. I think that's pretty good. If we can take in 20% in tariffs, and it's a 0.7% increase. And Kristen, the little publicized story this week, everyone wants to look at the stock market going down. You know what else went down? Oil prices went down almost 15% in 2 days, which impacts working Americans much more than the stock market does. Interest rates hit their low for the year, so I'm expecting the mortgage applications to pick up.
So, number one, I did look for that study from MIT, couldn't find it, but reality is we are seeing some positive economic numbers. The number of jobs, we talked about this on Friday, Jobs Friday. The number of jobs added in March was way more than anticipated. The cost of eggs have gone down big time. They were $8 a dozen in February. You had all these folks screaming about Trump's egg prices. Well, now they're down to around $3 a dozen. That is huge. And Scott Bessent is right. Oil prices have gone down significantly over the past couple of weeks. Now, I love this moment where Kirsten Welker tried to fact check the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, and he fact checks her right back. I've got that audio coming up after this break. It is a great moment and one that really does deserve highlighting. I've got that for you and a whole lot more straight ahead. By the way, the Super Text line is open, very active this morning. Thank you. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Do me a favor, watch us if you would on YouTube, Facebook, 997WTN.com, and X. You can stream us anywhere you get your streams as well. Take the Daily Dan poll as well. If you watch, like, and subscribe us on YouTube. And the Daily Dan poll, the question for today is, we had all of these hands-off protests over the weekend. Do you believe that this is a legit concern for the President of the United States? Is this really an indicator as to where the American people are these days? Because last week and last weekend, it was all about Elon Musk and hatred for Elon Musk. This weekend, it's all about Donald Trump. So I just told you what the Daily Dan poll question is. So far, the numbers are, KGB?
Landslide, 91% say no. Trump is not in trouble.
All right, and I agree. I actually voted. 6:21 on Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Hey, Joan.
Hey there. So all eyes on the White House today as President Trump is hosting an important world leader. Also, we'll tell you about the agency that's undergoing a serious workforce cut after President Biden added so many workers to that agency. I think you know which one. Those stories and more coming up here at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dan Mandis here, and my friends at Window Nation, I endorse these folks because they do great work. They did great work for me. They're going to do great work for you. Now, we've had all of this rain, of course, over the last several weeks. And my old windows, my inefficient windows, I would have had all kind of moisture right there on my windowsill. But my new Window Nation windows, I got to tell you, no moisture, no rain got in. And I also got a great deal on these windows. They are, by the way, ranked highest on Forbes' list of best window installers. Now, again, they put new windows in my basement studio, my kitchen, and my bedroom. They look fantastic, and they can do the same thing for you. Now, right now, they've got a great deal for listeners to my show. You buy 4 windows, you get 4 additional windows absolutely free, plus no payments or interest until 2027. Now, these windows are energy efficient, indeed. So not only are you saving money on install, but also on your electricity bills as well. Now, how do I know that you're going to be happy with my friends at Window Nation? They've got a 96% satisfaction rating and over 20%, I should say 20,000 5-star reviews. Now, don't forget that great deal. You buy 4 windows, you get 4 additional windows free, plus no payments, no interest until 2027. 866-90-NATION, 866-90-NATION, windownation.com. .625, Nashville's Morning News. You know, when I first started thinking about lens replacement to treat my cataracts, I was really nervous. I had all kinds of concerns running through my head. Was it painful? How long is the downtime? I've also heard a lot of myths like you're still going to need glasses or the results are not permanent. But during my initial consultation with Dr. Horn at Vision for Life, he took the time to answer all of my questions. And yes, he did address those common myths, and he did explain, and this was my experience. that it's a quick 5-minute procedure. Most patients feel little to no discomfort. Recovery times are really fast, and many people permanently achieve near perfect vision without glasses. Now, that's what happened to me. I'm at 20/20. I can see. I went to the movies this weekend, and I could see it's the first time that I've gone to the movies since I had my vision correction surgery, and it was great. I mean, I could see the screen and everything. I will be honest, I wasn't exactly sure how I would feel about it, but I could see the screen clear as anything. Now, Dr. Horn tailored a plan specific to my needs and my goals. He walked me through the lens options and how they could help me not just restore my vision, but also my quality of life. So call them, tell them Dan told you to reach out. If you've been thinking about vision correction surgery, this is the guy you need to call, Dr. Horn and Vision for Life at 615-436-2020, 615-436-2020, visionforlife.com. .628, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here. How are you? Going through some of the relevant audio. Scott Bessent was on with Kirsten Welker on Meet the Press, and he's trying to talk up the tariffs because realize that everybody else, well, not everybody, but a lot of these media outlets are tearing down the tariffs. We'll have to see what happens. But I did love this moment where Kirsten Welker tried to fact-check Scott Bessent, and he fact-checked her right back. Listen to this.
Well, just to be very clear, though, I mean, during President Trump's first terms, the cost to Americans was nearly $80 billion in new taxes due to his tariffs. Prices did go up on everything from washing machines to tires.
Well, no. But let's go back. The aggregate number was 0.7, so we can discern the individual things. Also, households saw real net wages go up. So if wages go up faster than prices, which is not what happened over the past 4 years, that's why the bottom 50% got eviscerated.
Yeah, I mean, Bessent talked about the big picture. Lower regulations, lower taxes, lower government spending, more jobs, and the tariffs, he believes, will ultimately bring higher wages and income for America. And no, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent does not believe that there's going to be a recession. Matthew Hurt has some opinions on all of this and a whole lot more. He joins us next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It is 6:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. There's a crash on 24, the westbound lanes at Joby Jackson Parkway. The left lane is blocked off 24 west at Joby Jackson. It's also affecting traffic on the eastbound side. Several rivers and streams still rising in the Nashville listening area, but they are expected to begin receding later today. For the folks in the Woodstock neighborhood in Clarksville, this is the second time their homes have flooded since since February.
I told my wife the other day, I said, Woodstock, laughing stock is what we feel like now. And not a tractor, not a pump, not a piece of equipment. Nothing's been done since February 15th.
That man also tells Channel 4 that he can't get flood insurance because his neighborhood is not in a flooded zone. Well, keep your eye on the roads for flooding today as you're making your way into work. President Trump will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House today.
The two got on the phone over the weekend when the Israeli Prime Minister was in Hungary on a diplomatic visit. They talked a little bit about tariffs, and according to the Israelis, President Trump said, "Come to Washington, let's really talk about it." There's other issues on the agenda as well. So the Prime Minister will be meeting today at about 1 o'clock Eastern with President Trump.
That's ABC's Jordana Miller at the White House. Today's talks primarily dealing with the stalled ceasefire talks to release more hostages. On Friday, the IRS started a new round of layoffs, beginning with the agency's Office of Civil Rights and Compliance. That'll close down that office. Earlier this year, more than 4,000 IRS employees accepted the Trump administration's buyout offer. The agency plans to cut nearly 1/4 of its workforce. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 632, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here. Listen, it is, spring wedding season. That is approaching, of course. Bathing suit season approaching, of course, as well. But listen, if you're a bride, a bridesmaid, a groom, a groomsman, and you're not exactly confident about looking your best, Contours Med Spa in Cool Springs, they can help you. Their red light technology is going to help you lose 2 inches across the belly on that first treatment. That is guaranteed. And if you're not happy, you don't pay. And right now, that first treatment is only $99 right now. When you call 615-236-9960, first 10 callers, you get it for $99. By the way, that is a $600 value. First 10 callers right now, 615-236-9960. My friends at Contours want to save you money and help you lose that fat. Now, again, usually a $600 value. So whether it is a tux or a bathing suit that you're trying to slide into, Contours Med Spa in Cool Springs has been helping folks look better and feel more confident with their ultra slim technology. It is FDA approved. It is incredibly unique and one of the only places in Tennessee that offers red light technology. Now, this is both for girls and guys, so call right now. Again, first 10 callers get that Belly Buster special for just $99, usually a $600 value. 615-236-9960, 615-236-9960, ContoursLLC.com. .635 on WTN. Matthew Hurt is coming up next. Dan Mandis here talking about one of my favorite parties of the year, the Glock Store's 5th annual open house. That is happening on Saturday, May 31st. I think this is going to be my 5th, as a matter of fact. Now, every year at the Glock Store, They open the doors, invite top vendors in the industry, and welcome all of Nashville to come and join the fun. Now, planning is already well underway to make this year's open house the best ever. With deals you'll have to be there to believe. Now, just one great deal, and they've got so many incredible deals, but they've got Burrow bullets, 9mm and .223 ammo at the lowest price ever. They've also got 50-round boxes, 250-round bullet bags, and 1,000-round tack packs that come in a Burrow bullet ammo box. Again, at the lowest price ever. The thing is about the open house at the Glock store is they've got all kinds of giveaways. They've got all kinds of special prices as well. This is my gun store, the Glock store. I'm a big 2A supporter. I bought my first gun at the Glock store and got a feeling it's not going to be my last. You can find them online, glockstore.com and shoot270.com.
Well, there's still a huge problem this morning on 24, the westbound lanes at Joe B. Jackson Parkway. Now, some super texters texted earlier this morning to let us know that there was a problem, a crash on the eastbound side, perhaps a crash on the westbound side. It's really not clear from the traffic cameras this morning. The westbound side approaching Joe B. Jackson Parkway is a jam this morning. We'll keep on top of that to see where it goes. Also in Belmont, 8th Avenue South at Wedgwood Avenue, that is an accident scene this morning. And a pothole reported on the off-ramp of the 24 westbound at the eastern split this morning at westbound I-40, exit 52A. Big old pothole there. It's causing a lot of folks to slow down. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.637 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Appreciate you being here. Want to welcome on in our grassroots political consultant, Matthew Hurt. Matthew, how are you?
Hey, Dan, doing great. Just ready for this week to kick off and hopefully for things to cool down in Washington, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
No. So I just want to go through a slew of questions because there's a lot going on. Number one, folks can watch us on YouTube at obviously YouTube and all the other places as well. But every day we do a poll. Today's poll is, do you believe that these hands-off protests or rallies across the country is a real indicator of Donald Trump and his popularity in America? You know, will this impact the midterm elections and so far? Folks are saying that there's no way that this is a real indicator of what is going to happen in the midterm elections or Donald Trump's popularity. What say you?
You know, these rallies over the weekend, I think more than 1,100 of them across the country are a snapshot in time. They're kind of like a poll. We are 17 or 18 months away from the midterm elections. If the energy continues, if this movement is sustainable, many of your listeners will remember the Tea Party rallies of 2009 and 2010. If this movement mimics that, it could certainly have an impact in some of these close races. It looks like the forecast shows Republicans holding the U.S. Senate with 52 or 53 seats next year. But the House is certainly in play. There are 18 seats that are toss-ups right now. And if this energy continues in those races that Republicans won by a point or two last year, it could be much closer or go the other way.
Is it fair to say, though, that the people that are at these rallies, number one, and I played some audio in the 5 o'clock hour that certainly proved this, there's people out there that are, number one, paid protesters. I don't think all, the millions of people, I don't think all of them are paid protesters. But I think there's clearly people that are out there that don't really know what's going on politically. Is it safe to say these are already people that did not vote for Donald Trump in the first place?
It's pretty safe to say that, Dan. I would say there are three kinds of people at these protests. There are a small number of folks who are getting paid, who work for left-wing grassroots groups. There are what I call the Vietnam War era protesters, the people who would come out to a protest no matter what it was. They miss the old days of
Their signs are actually dry erase boards.
Yeah, exactly. Professors on campus. And then the third are people who are curious and young people and people new to the political scene. I think probably a lot of your listeners who've been in Nashville for a long time came out to the Tea Party protests in 2009 and 2010 were very similar. And so while the movement, I think, is being driven by large, interconnected, left-of-center grassroots groups, they will attract people who are just naturally curious. And if they're checking in now, the question is, will they be checking in 18 months? And it is unlikely unless this movement can maintain a sustainability through the midterm elections.
All right, so we have the tariffs going on right now. Markets obviously have been impacted. It seems to me economists are divided on this. You've got a lot of economists who are saying this is going to be a disaster. You've got other economists saying, no, not so much. I'm just going to tell you where I stand or sit because I'm no economist. But we've never done this before. We've never tariffed every single country in the world, reciprocally or otherwise. And the tariffs are part of a cauldron of things that Donald Trump is doing to try to improve America's economy. So I guess, number one, do you have a prediction as to how these tariffs are going to ultimately, once it all shakes out, do you think they'll help or hurt the economy, especially when you look at all the other things that Donald Trump is trying to do with the Trump tax cuts, deregulation, manufacturing, bringing jobs back into America, and so forth?
There are two things to consider on the tariffs. I think the proposed tariffs are so high that it forces most of these countries to the table. What we'll likely see is a negotiation with most of the countries, as you saw the advertisement of the board that Donald Trump presented last week with the different percentages. I think there's an element of that, forcing these countries to the table. But where it takes time, a couple of weeks or a month or two, we'll see prices rise in targeted industries. Again, countries don't pay tariffs. Consumers pay tariffs, and you can argue about the efficacy and success of tariffs, and we're going to see it play out. You're right, Dan. We haven't done something to this extent ever. But the people who pay tariffs are the people at the price point, the people who go into Walmart, the people who go into the small business and buy a good. That's where they pay. And if they see that food costs more or household items or other things, it's going to weigh on their minds heading into the election. But again, with 18 months to go, I think a lot of these countries come to the table and negotiate, and we see some success across the board there.
One of the things that I've found very funny, actually, is you've got Tim Walz making a lot of appearances on the chat shows. You had Kamala Harris.
Because, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
What is she talking about? Number one, I personally believe that Donald Trump does remain very popular. And we can talk about the things that Donald Trump, just put the tariffs aside. Trump has succeeded on immigration. Trump has succeeded on getting the gangbangers out of here and so forth. And so the president has actually had a lot of successes in the first couple of months. So when Kamala Harris says, I told you so, number one, what exactly is she talking about? And number two, I think the last person that should be out there raising her hand and talking about all this is Kamala Harris.
It is too early to say, I told you so. You're absolutely right, Dan. There have been quite a lot of successes from the Trump administration, particularly as it pertains to immigration. We've seen those. What I've been most impressed by is so many of the elements of the Trump administration have been so forthcoming and transparent on platforms like Twitter or X, where you can actually see what they're doing. Caroline Leavitt goes on once a week with a reel or on Instagram talking about the successes of the administration. This is a transparent administration. They are touting their successes. The American people are making decisions based on those. It just depends on the gravity of an individual situation or an individual issue on the American person. So, like, if prices are going up, people are thinking more about that. They may not think so much about immigration, even though I would say there's more success there. And then on all these other issues, the Trump administration is moving at a lightning pace to get people confirmed and into position, and they are working for what I've said on this show is generational change, cuts to the federal government, and innovation that will hopefully provide a better government service to the American people, not only in the Trump administration, but for years to come.
So are you as amused as I am, Matthew Hurt? Oh, I got to check traffic. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you the question, then you can muse on it. Are you as amused as I am at all of these members of the elite political media coming out now and exposing that Joe Biden was not fit to serve, when all of us, including me and you, were all saying the dude is not fit to serve? Finally, now the elite media is admitting that he was not fit to serve. And now they're coming out with these bombshell exposés on how bad Joe Biden really was. We're going to talk about that straight ahead. Time to check the roads on WTN. Thank you very much, Christy. As far as your weather, we don't have any rain in the forecast, thank the Lord. Weather today, high of 60 and cloudy. And appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. All right, so Matthew Hurt joining us. Matthew, I don't know. I'm a little bemused at the media suddenly saying, oh, my goodness, did you hear how bad Joe Biden really was during his administration? Yeah, we all were talking about it.
This has popped up a few times over the last couple of months talking with you, Dan. I am not surprised that reporters are running to a narrative that will sell books for them. What does most surprise me, though, and it's fairly disappointing, even though it's on the other side, is Ron Klain, former White House chief of staff in the Biden administration, going to an author and saying that Joe Biden was out of it. This is something that in politics you have your friends and you have the policies you care about. Loyalty is an important issue. It does not surprise me that reporters want to sell books. It really surprises me that someone so close to Joe Biden would make an admission that, of course, we all know, but that he would do that to somebody that he worked for. If somebody was worked for politicians and elected officials, loyalty is so important. And I'm disappointed that he's sort of caught on to that issue, and it is something that is bipartisan. Anybody who has worked for somebody, particularly somebody with a record like Joe Biden, decades in government, should be a little more loyal. And so it's disappointing, and it begs the question: what is he trying to make out of his career later?
I'll tell you, if I may interrupt, I'm going to tell you what he's trying to do. He's trying to save his political career, because I don't know. I think we all know how much of a train wreck Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were. Ron Klain was obviously very close to Joe Biden. I think he was his chief of staff, right? So you have a situation where I would assume that his name is mud within the Democrat Party. So I think that he's trying to regain some credibility. I could be wrong. What say you?
It could be some of that, Dan, but if I were looking to hire Ron Klain in the future, I would say, what has he said about his former employers? And I think that there's a bit of that. Again, in politics, particularly if you've got somebody at the chief of staff level, you want someone who you could basically write into your will. This is particularly if you're in elected office for a long time like Joe Biden was. This is, again, I think a disappointment from within the Biden family, quote unquote. And again, we all saw it. You and I talked about it for months. They called us conspiracy theorists for it. We knew it to be true, and it was a dereliction of duty for many of these individuals. If Ron Klain had seen the issue, he should have said something before the disastrous debate in the middle of last year.
Real quick, because I've only got a second now, but it looks like, and I'll get into more of the details coming up, but it looks like Mike Johnson and Anna Paulina Luna, they have come to an agreement on voting by proxy. And so it looks like the work in Congress, and I'll get into the details coming up, but it looks like the work of the House of Representatives is going to continue. How do you think the House of Representatives, and I've only got about a minute, but how do you think the House of Representatives How have they been doing this time around? A lot of people are criticizing them.
It's hit or miss on the record. I would say I'm very concerned about voting by proxy. Thomas Massey forced members of Congress to come back at the beginning of the pandemic to vote on the CARES Act. He took a lot of flack on the right and the left for doing that. I think that people should show up for their jobs. And in the House of Representatives right there in Nashville a number of years ago, there was a scandal of members voting with basically voting sticks for their seatmates. So this is a little concerning to me, but I also understand, Anna Paulina Luna just gave birth and she's going to go be a mom for a little bit. But this should concern the American people. What gets permission for a member to walk off the floor and have somebody else vote with their voting card?
Yeah, we'll talk about what vote pairing is coming up in the next hour. How can folks find you on Twitter, Matt?
I'm on Twitter at Matthew Hurt, MattheHewHurtt.
All right, we'll talk to you again soon. Matthew Hurt, always great to have him on. It is 6:51 on Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones has the news coming up at 7. Joan?
Yeah, Dan, we will take a look at the effects of all that rain that has fallen 4 to 6 inches in the past few days and what effect that is having, not just on the roads, but on wastewater treatment plants. That's all coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WGN.
$6:52 on WTN. Got a lot more straight ahead. Friends, listen, if you've got a piece of property, maybe some land that you don't know what to do with, I want you to think about a pole barn from my friends at Stoltzco. They are the premier pole barn builders here in the state of Tennessee. You know that putting up a pole barn from Stoltzco could increase the value of your land big time, and you can use that pole barn really as anything you want it to be. It can be a garage, an event space, an equestrian building. You can just live in it. But here's the deal. A pole barn from Stoltzco, they are flexible and they're built really well too. So you can also, by the way, plan ahead and build your retirement home with one of these incredible pole barns from Stoltzco. Now, you can call them, tell them what you have in mind, and they'll give you some ideas and some pricing. 615-622-5992. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. 615-622-5992. You want to see an example of their work? They've got an amazing website. It's stoltzco.com, Stoltzco, stoltzco.com. You can also find them on Instagram and Facebook as well. Again, stoltzco.com. 6:56, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Okay, so very quickly, because I think the House of Representatives has been doing a terrible job of working with Donald Trump and his administration to get things done. But Anna Paulina Luna and Mike Johnson appear to have now reached an agreement on proxy voting. Now, remember this whole thing about new parents being able to vote by proxy, right? It was a big deal, I think the last week or the week before, but days ago. You had Anna Paulina Luna, and new parents should be able to work and vote from home. The Republicans very much against it, except for a few, including, of course, Tennessee's Tim Burchett, who voted with Luna and all the Democrats. Now, Mike Johnson made the mistake of tying Trump's agenda to defeating Luna's legislation. And as I said at the time, and I remain very much against what Johnson did, major strategic and tactical error. Well, here's the update. Speaker Mike Johnson has reached a deal with Representative Anna Paulina Luna over her push to allow new parents to vote by proxy, a development that is set to unlock the House floor after the explosive issue and the GOP rebellion it sparked brought the chamber to a standstill. Under the agreement being worked out, the House would formalize vote pairing, two sources familiar with the matter confirmed to The Hill. The procedure allows a member, in this case a new parent, who must be absent for a vote to coordinate with a lawmaker voting opposite their stance, who is willing to abstain from the vote. That way, the new mother's vote is canceled out. You know what my problem is with that? Okay, so let's say Anna Paulina Luna and the House of Representatives, let's say that she's at home. Let's say there is a very contentious vote. And what happens if, the Democrats are like, no, we're not going to pair any of our members with you. There's no way we're going to do that because we don't believe that Trump or the Republicans want to do the right thing. In other words, it sounds like this is based on trust. What if no Democrat wants to pair with you to cancel out your vote? I would say to Anna Paulina Luna. Additionally, Johnson is still looking at increasing accessibility for young mothers in the Capitol. One of the sources said, a prospect that the speaker revealed last week, he said that he is eyeing a room for nursing mothers and potentially allowing mothers of young children to use their official funds to travel between their home districts and Washington. Luna confirmed the agreement in a statement on the social platform X after the GOP conference call, noting that vote pairing would be allowed for members who have to miss votes for reasons other than recently giving birth, including various emergencies. I'm just telling you, and this is the first I've ever heard of vote pairing, but it sounds like that's based on trust. Like, okay, this is what we'll do in case we have an issue. And I don't think we can trust Democrats. We'll have to wait and see how this whole thing plays out. It is 7 o'clock, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It is now 7 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Want to let you know the 24, the westbound lanes between Epps Mill Road and Joe B. Jackson Parkway. There is a vehicle on fire, and traffic has been stopped approaching that spot. Again, it's westbound 24, somewhere between Epps Mill Road and Joe B. Jackson Parkway. More on that right after the news. Well, something we haven't seen in a while around here, sunshine for today in our forecast. Heavy rains over the past several days is still pretty evident.
Flood advisories and flood warnings for parts of the Cumberland River, parts of the Tennessee River, and obviously the surrounding creeks and streams as well.
Stefano DiPietro of Channel 4 there. Flooding impacting many roads in the Volunteer State after multiple rounds of severe thunderstorms and tornado warnings. Careful approaching standing water on the roads this morning. And remember, of course, to turn around and don't drown. Meantime, wastewater treatment plants in several counties have been affected by the flooding, including in Decatur, Henry, Humphreys, and Robertson counties. Trump administration officials over the weekend urging patience from American consumers consumers as Wall Street braces for another rough ride today.
But as Americans nervously watch their 401ks take a hit, the president's advisors are urging patience. The Treasury Secretary says more than 50 countries have already reached out, looking to negotiate. But the backlash is growing in Congress on both sides. Several Republican senators have signed on to a long-shot bill that would require presidents justify new tariffs for congressional approval.
ABC's Allison Kosick reporting there. Meantime, President Trump was asked over the weekend about if he would walk back his tariffs at any point.
Pain in the market. At some point, you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put. Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think it's I don't want anything to go down. But sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
That scene playing out on board Air Force One. An arrest has been made in an argument between a Florida boat captain and a 22-year-old who was fishing alone on his boat over the weekend. The angry captain accused the other man of fishing before dawn without his lights on, and he boarded that other man's boat in a frightening scene that was captured on video.
I'm the best charter captain you will ever meet in your
All right, bro.
cuss me out.
Chill, bro. Chill, bro. Please, bro.
Don't hit the
Please, okay, please, bro. Please, bro. Please, bro. Bro, I'm a kid, bro. Please.
Apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry, bro.
The 40-year-old charter boat captain Brock Horner was charged with assault. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Online at beaconcm.com. Stock futures this morning negative by a lot. Dow futures, they're down 870 right now. The NASDAQ futures are minus 526. S&P futures, they're down 132. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather is still to come. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Well, it's a closure on 24 westbound side this morning. What a mess. It's between Epps Mill Road and Joe B. Jackson Parkway. A vehicle on fire in that area, and they've closed it off this morning on the westbound side of 24 approaching that spot. We'll keep an eye on it. Also, the 24 eastbound side got a crash in Whites Creek. This is past the Clay Lick Road overpass. Then in Belmont, a crash, 8th Avenue South at Wedgwood. That's been there quite a while. 65 in the northbound side at Berry Hill. An accident at I-440 exit 80. And they're working a pothole this morning at the eastern split. It's on 24, the westbound side as you're approaching exit 52A. And it is on the off-ramp. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
7:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. Joan.
Yes.
We may have some fake weather news going on because we've been saying, of course, all morning long that there's no rain.
But guess what?
But guess what?
Yeah.
People are saying, no, it's raining. People are saying it's raining in Hermitage and also in Mount Juliet, among other places.
Yeah.
So I guess...
so it's going to be nice soon. How's that?
So the rain will taper off into better weather and dry weather later on?
At some point, yeah.
At some point?
Yeah. It's like partly cloudy today. Let's see. Cloudy now, Monday, gradual clearing, and a high of 60.
So in other words, I shouldn't be playing?
Oh, you can play it all you want. I think people kind of like that.
I don't think they do.
They love it, Dan. They love hearing it repeatedly over and over and over again.
Are you sure? Because
no, yeah,
it started moving right along. Thank you, John. So in other words, rain will end and we'll have not sunny skies, but it'll be cloudy throughout the day.
Partial cloudy.
Partial cloudy.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. 7:08, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So we're talking about a number of different things today. The headline from the Today Show: Trump doubles down on tariffs. It's a big conversation going on. We have, of course, the anti-Trump protests that are going on across the country as well. And, you know, a lot of the media making a very big deal about this. Kamala Harris, of course, said this. I think this was late last week.
Because, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
I don't know why people think that was so funny. It really wasn't, but whatever. Bunch of cackling hyenas. So, but it's kind of funny, though, how Kamala Harris is out there, of all people, right? Kamala Harris is out there. And apparently we had Foconatus. Elizabeth Warren was here over the weekend for our Nashville hands-off rally protesting Donald Trump. So whatever. But here's the thing. Let's go through some of the things that Donald Trump has done as predicted, right? Because Kamala Harris is like, I told you so. I told you he was going to do this. Okay. Manufacturing is up. We saw those numbers. We have trillions of dollars in foreign investments going on right now in reaction to Donald Trump's tariffs. We have the border closed. Crossings are literally zero. We have gang members being deported. We have prices going down. We have, of course, everything going on with Doge and all of the things that Elon Musk has exposed regarding Joe Biden's spending and the things that we were spending money on through USAID and some of these other agencies. So you know what? Kamala, Trump told you so, that he was going to do all of these things, and he is. Now, I do understand that the markets are reacting not so great right now to the tariffs. And yes, somebody was asking me before about the tariffs and are Republicans sort of jumping off the tariff train. Well, there's been some Republicans, including Ted Cruz, who have a lot of concerns about the tariffs. As I've been saying all along, I'm a talk show host and not an economist. I have no idea what's going to happen because guess what? We've never done this. We've never tried to tariff or tariffed every single country in the world. But also part of what's going on now is the media admitting in book after book that you, Kamala Harris, lied to us about Joe Biden's cognitive ability to run the country. And I love that Jake Tapper, this is making big news over the weekend and this morning. Jake Tapper hit Tim Walz right between the eyes. And I love what he had to say.
I have to say, though, what does I told you so really mean here? I mean, people heard her message. They did not vote for her. She lost every battleground state. You yourself have criticized the Harris-Walz campaign for being too cautious. She may have warned the American people, but she didn't do it compellingly enough to win.
Right. She lost every battleground state, and she lost the popular vote as well. And that's why, for me, for the hands-off rallies, I think these are people, you know, and as I mentioned to Matthew Hurd in the previous hour, I think these are people that bring dry erase boards to these protests, because it's like, what's the protest du jour? What's the protest of the day? Last week it was about Elon Musk. This week it was about Donald Trump. And I believe that these are all folks that are seriously anti-Trump to begin with. So I'm not taking this very seriously. As a matter of fact, our poll, watch us on YouTube, like and subscribe. And our poll this morning is, do you believe that the hands-off protest that we saw over the weekend is a clear indicator that Donald Trump is losing popularity, that this could be an arbiter of things to come in the midterm elections? And by and large, most people said no. Kamala Harris remains, by the way, the word salad queen. She does remain very unpopular. And if there's anyone, I would say, who could say, I told you so, it was Donald Trump when Biden was president. Remember that. Donald Trump was literally right about everything that he said that Joe Biden was going to do before Biden, air quote, won the election in 2020. So here's the deal. Now we have Tim Walz and we have the media and other people saying, well, this is what happened. This is, you had the poorly run Kamala Harris campaign is what Tim Walz is saying. You've got the media out there saying, oh, well, Joe Biden was out of it during the 4 years of his administration, especially the last two. Well, we all knew that. And so now, for whatever reason, of all people, Tim Walz has been making the rounds to talk about all this.
That is the absolute point. And look, when I criticize, I'm criticizing myself. I own this. I'm part of the ticket. And somebody has to come up with a strategy. Donald Trump's doing this. Just to be clear, nobody on the Democratic side is celebrating this. And those folks in the street are not celebrating that Donald Trump's making all these errors. I think what the vice president's saying is that was pretty self-evident that he was going to do that. I do think the challenge for Democrats, and this is, I think, a structural problem that's going to take a lot more thinking. Why, with all of that out there, did they not think we were any better than that? And they didn't.
See, number one, he keeps saying, and they keep saying, that Donald Trump is making mistakes. I don't know that he is. That remains to be seen, friends. I know that you're worried about the tariffs. I'm worried about the tariffs. We're worried about the impact it's going to have on the stock market and so forth. And, will it ultimately end up leading to higher prices? It could for the short term. We just don't know. But Doge and Elon have found all of the wasteful spending going on inside the federal government under Joe Biden. And Tim Walz, you and Kamala Harris, you were right there along with it. So how dare you come out and you start talking about Donald Trump? And just because you've got activist judges that are trying to block Donald Trump at every move doesn't mean that he is doing something wrong. It just means that you have judges in the right place and they're willing to do your bidding. It means that judges have been mobilized by their partnerships with the Democrat Party. So, no, I don't believe that Donald Trump is making mistakes. Again, that remains to be seen about the tariffs. But Walz actually admits the America at the end of Biden's 4 years was angry, frustrated, and ready for change. And I've got that audio coming up next. It is 7:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. All right, so it looks like everybody is adjusting their weather forecast to light rain today, cloudy later on, and what's the temperature right now, KGB?
45 degrees.
45 degrees at Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Playing audio from Tim Walz, watching all of these hands-off rallies or protests across the country, I find it so ironic, don't you think, that these are the same jackholes that were supportive of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And let's be honest, and even Walz does admit that America, at the end of Biden's 4 years, they were angry, we were frustrated, and we were ready for a change.
And I'm very concerned with the folks who stayed home. And these are folks that I'll say once again, Donald Trump has identified their angst. They can't buy a house. They can't afford to get a good education. They're concerned that their economic future is so precarious it could slip out from under them. Less than half of Americans have $1,000 in savings. And I think, why was it not so compelling? It should have been a slam dunk for us to say, we're the party that cares about that. We're the party that's going to protect Social Security and Medicare. We're the party that thinks the ACA is a good start, but we need to do more on health care. And we didn't do that. So I'm concerned. Democrats do well in special elections and off-year elections, but the electorate that comes in presidential election years is different.
You know, a lot of the things that he rattled off, including, Americans had, less than $1,000 in their savings account? Well, whose fault is that, Tim Walz? Because Joe Biden managed with all of that idiotic spending, not to mention all the people he put out of work with the vaccine mandates, that you had a lot of people that lost their jobs, lost their life savings and so forth. And with the inflation rate well over 9%, people didn't have a lot of money. And now they had to use their credit cards at the time to pay off their bills. And now people are mired in credit card debt. So I love that he's rattling off all of these problems, but his party and his running mate, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden didn't do anything to help those issues. They caused it and exacerbated the problems. And so I don't feel like these hands-off rallies or protests, I feel like they lack credibility. The same people that were silent when Joe Biden was in office, unfit to serve, by the way, lying at every turn, gaslighting the American people, these people are now taking to the streets with their dry erase boards to protest Donald Trump. I'm sorry, but I'm not paying a lot of attention to them.
Well, what do you make of the criticism that one of the reasons why your party was so resoundingly rejected last November is because Democrats were gaslighting the country, saying that inflation was not a big deal, heralding Bidenomics. Not only Biden, but Kamala Harris was heralding Bidenomics, pretending that there wasn't a problem at the border. And then fundamentally, this idea that President Biden was up for another 4 years of the job while Americans in poll after poll for year after year were saying he's too old to do the job. Your party stood against all of those things.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what I was saying, Leslie Marshall is a Democrat. I was watching, I think it was Fox News the other day. Leslie Marshall is a Democrat strategist, former talk show host. I don't know if she still has a show, but she's a Democrat apologist, Biden apologist. She was on somewhere the other night, and this story comes up where you've got all of these writers that are now talking about how Joe Biden was out of it during his administration. And she says, well, this story doesn't matter and nobody cares because Joe Biden is not running for office and we've all moved on. Well, the truth of the matter is that the same rot in the Democrat Party that lied and ran the country into the ground is now out there screaming that Donald Trump is destroying the country. So again, you want to talk about credibility issues? These folks have none.
Look, Joe Biden coming in and doing COVID and being a governor through COVID did a hell of a job. But I think one of the things that we didn't do is we assumed that we said, and it was true, that we were going to have a soft landing and our economy was better than the rest of the world. Better for who? Better for the working class who was saying groceries were too expensive. I think we got intellectualized on this. I think the fact of the matter is Joe Biden did soft land the economy. He did usher us through COVID. None of us are saying we should be soft on the border, but we allow a vacuum and Donald Trump fills it, the 800-pound gorilla, and their narrative starts to stick, and we look weak.
I mean, well, you are weak, and so much BS in that one statement. I don't have enough time to go through all the BS in one statement. I will do that coming back, and a lot more news ahead as well on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986. I'll have some of your comments as well. 721, Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Hey, Joan.
Yeah, so it's not storms, but flooding is causing some big-time headaches today, and why a couple of Border Patrol agents are in jail today. Those stories and more coming up at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
721, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. What could you do with an extra $75,000 right now, or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, friends, you can get that money in less than a week with my friends at Loan Pronto. They are the leader in quickly converting your home's equity into cold hard cash, so you can pay off all your credit cards or start that home remodel. Now, Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access the cash from your home. There's virtually no paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, and often no appraisal. Listen, the average homeowner right now has over $300,000 in equity. Maybe you. That is your money. You should use it. Now, one client got $150,000 out, paid off all their credit cards, a couple of car loans as well, and a personal loan, cutting their monthly expenses by $1,500. Call them. Tell them Dan told you to reach out, 615-499-5780. 615-499-5780. The website, loanpronto.com. Get the money you need for anything, 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. $28.47 actually says Joe Biden had the best jobs performance in recent history. $28.47, you're lost. 724, Nashville's Morning News. Dan Mandis here for my friends at Zero Res. This is my carpet cleaning company, Zero Res. Now, I've been a client for years and years. One big reason is that they really do help my allergies. Now, carpet is the #1 air filter inside your home. What it does is it filters out airborne particulates. Talking about pollen and bacteria. You name it, Zero Res will filter out the bad stuff so you can keep your filter clean. And Zero Res does this better than anyone. They don't use any harsh chemicals. They don't use harsh soaps, just powered water that leaves behind soft, fluffy carpets. Now, remember, a clean filter means a healthier home. And here in allergy season, that is critical for you and your family. You know, at Zero Res, they have not raised their prices in years, and every month a new offer to save you money, including this month. 2 rooms of carpets cleaned for just $109 plus. You are going to get a free hallway as well. One more time. 2 rooms of carpets cleaned for just $109 plus. You're going to get a free hallway and 25% off of area rugs. Restrictions may apply. Call them right now, 615-535-9376, 615-535-9376, or book online, ZeroResNashville.com. Hey, YouTubers and streamers, check this out. This is what happens when the company doesn't give us the authority to do what we need to do for our jobs. Almighty. Enjoy it. Laugh at it like we are. All right. $7:28, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. So 2847, just real quick. 2847 says that Joe Biden had, what was it, the best jobs performance in recent history? So what he's trying to do, obviously, there's two big things here, right? Number one is he is, like Democrats do, they're trying to factor in the COVID jobs, the existing jobs that had come back. That's number one. Number two, let's not forget that the Biden administration, and this was big news, I think at the tail end of his administration, right, where they were manipulating the job numbers. Remember that whole thing? So that is why people like 2847 says that Joe Biden had the best jobs performance in recent history. I did tell him that he was lost. And then he says back to me, you can't handle anything that doesn't fit your narrative. So you know what I said to him, Joan?
What did you say, Dan?
I said, you can't handle the truth.
Did you see what I added?
They have new prescriptions for TDS.
Yes.
Prescriptions for TDS.
Yes. He should seek his local medical doctor for any side effects when it comes to these new prescriptions, but they do help with TDS very well.
What are they? What are the new
Getting
prescriptions?
over it.
Getting over it? He needs like a get over it pill. Does that come in gummy form? Whatever. Moving right along.
With melatonin included.
Anyway, all right, coming up next, and then I got one more Tim Walz soundbite left, but I want to point out the BS that is spewing from the left, and I've got one great example coming up next, plus all the latest on tariffs. It is all straight ahead on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 7:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Well, there's good news. 24 westbound, they have opened up the right lane around a car fire at Joby Jackson Parkway. But lots of delays this morning. If you can, it would be best to get off at Epps Mill, take 41 to get around that accident this morning. We'll tell you more about that in the traffic and with weather coming up right after the news. We are not talking about tornadoes today. That's the good news, but we will still have to deal with some flooding.
Flood warnings and flood advisories for parts of the Tennessee River, the adjacent creeks and streams, and parts of the Cumberland as well. So make sure you know what roadways in your area are closed. And remember, if you do encounter a flooded roadway, to never try to drive through it.
Yeah, Channel 4 Stefano DiPietro there. And because of the flooding, some school districts called off classes for today, including in Cheatham, Hickman, Houston, Humphreys, Montgomery, and Stewart County schools. There are some who opened late as well. Damage assessments underway across Tennessee after several weather days in a row. Tennessee Emergency Management Director Patrick Sheehan.
But in the meantime, Tennesseans that have assistance should let us know. So your county emergency management agencies are standing by with their partners. The State Emergency Operations Center and TEMA are standing by with our nonprofit partners to make assistance available.
He also says to take videos and pictures and then contact your insurance company to show them. Well, you may still be without power this morning. Nashville Electric Service says they're still working to restore power to about 2,100 customers. The storms destroyed or damaged, they said, about 55 utility poles. In Southern California, 2 U.S. border inspectors have been charged with taking thousands of dollars in bribes to allow people to enter the country illegally. Investigators said they found phone evidence showing Farles Altamonte and Ricardo Rodriguez had exchanged messages with human traffickers in Mexico. And then they found big cash deposits in their bank accounts. Well, ahead of the opening bell this morning, stock futures are all in the minus column, big time. Dow futures down 992, NASDAQ futures minus 548, and the S&P futures are down 147. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 732, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. And listen, I've been telling you for years about United Structural Systems. They're experts in waterproofing, concrete leveling, and foundation repair. But let's stick to waterproofing right now. We have had a lot of rain. I mean, this weekend was insane. Now, listen, you've got to go down into your basement, into your crawl space, check to see if there is water or moisture down there. If there is, then you've got to call my friends at USS. You need some waterproofing. Now, I have been a client of USS for years now, United Structural Systems. I am one of 30,000 satisfied customers. Listen to this recent review on Google. Guy says that USS was highly professional. The crew was phenomenal from start to finish. They treated his home as if they were working on their own. And he does give USS 5 stars all the way. They're not going to charge you for any unnecessary repairs, and you're not going to pay a dime until the work is done and you are a satisfied customer. And they can help you with basement and crawl space waterproofing, basement wall stabilization, and foundation repair. We guarantee our best. Call USS 615-488-7855, 618-488-7855, USSTN.com. $7:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Having too much fun behind the scenes. Dan Med is here. Spring rebate madness at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. I want you to listen to these rebates from Busy Bee. A mini split 17 SEER or heat pump 17 SEER. That is an $800 rebate. Heat pumps 15 and 16 SEER. That is a $500 rebate. Now, you join the Beehive Club today, you get a $50 rebate on your spring and fall tune-up, and that means that you've already saved enough money to pay for the Beehive membership for the year. They'll even file those rebates for you, so you don't have to. Now, there's a ton of other rebates as well. When you join the Beehive Club, check them all out at their website. It is busybeehvac.com. busybeehvac.com. Their phone number is 615-775-7833, 615-775-7833. Tell them Dan told you to reach out, busybeehvac.com.
Well, the lanes are open. At least one lane is open, but the delay is still there on 24 westbound just before Joby Jackson Parkway. A crash and a car fire in that area. So big delays. Your best bet, honestly, is to get off at Epps Mill Road and take 41 as far as you can to get back onto 24. We've got 24 eastbound lanes. The right lane is blocked at Clay Lick Overpass, and that's because of a crash as well. Got a crash involving some injuries. Murfreesboro Pike at Mount View Road. And then this morning on 24, the westbound side at the eastern split to 52A. There is a big old pothole reported at the off-ramp, and that's causing a lot of people to slow down, thank goodness. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$7:37, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Is it that time of year, Joan, in KGB,
Yeah.
pothole time?
Oh, yeah, big time. You know, when the cold weather passes, this opens up all those potholes.
Yeah.
And they're not like wide, they're just deep.
Yeah.
And those are the worst ones.
Well, they're deep and wide.
And they're wide and deep.
And they're wide and deep. That's exactly right.
And they're deep and wide.
Anyway, so they're, and I think either last year, years ago, I did a whole thing on like where's your favorite pothole?
Oh yeah.
And oh my Lord, I got hammered with people talking about where they're not being facetious, obviously, but you know the potholes are everywhere, and it seems like it takes the city forever, or the county, whoever takes care of potholes, especially on like 440, which is the pothole. I'd be willing to bet that if you did some sort of a study on what highway in America has the most potholes, do you think 440? Because I guess they made it with the wrong kind of asphalt or something. I don't exactly know what happened, but they made 440 with, I should probably look this up before I spout.
I think 24 is worse.
Is 24 worse than 440?
I think so.
Joan, Google the problems with the 440. They made it with some sort of the wrong concrete or something, and that's why 440 is such a complete and utter train wreck. I think that's right. So, but bottom line is, we got potholes everywhere. 24, 440.
Here it is. I think I-440 reconstruction project in Nashville involved replacing deteriorated concrete pavement with asphalt, widening the route to a minimum of 6 lanes and using a process called rubblization to recycle the existing concrete for the new roadway base. Oh, I see.
Yeah, because the concrete or whatever it is that they used to build 440 wasn't sufficient. I don't know if it was an engineering problem or what it was, but whatever material they used wasn't great. And so 440 just has been crumbling before our eyes for years.
Wow.
And so now they've been trying to, basically play catch up ever since.
How about that?
And people are not happy about it.
What is wrong with these people?
I avoid 440 at all costs.
Yeah.
You would think, yeah. I mean, it's not like we're new to building highways. Anyway, moving on. Joe Biden and Tim Walz. So this is what Tim Walz had to say. And this is probably I think this is the last Tim Walz audio bite I'm going to play. But I'm trying to prove that the hands-off movement, this whole thing last weekend, is just a bunch of BS. But listen to what Tim Walz had to say about Joe Biden.
I think the fact of the matter is Joe Biden did soft land the economy. He did usher us through COVID. None of us are saying we should be soft on the border, but we allow a vacuum, and Donald Trump fills it, the 800-pound gorilla, and their narrative starts to stick, and we look weak.
So much BS in one statement. So let's review Joe Biden and how he did a hell of a job during COVID. You ready? And this was just off the top of my head. He had that massive spending plan. I think it's called the American Rescue Plan at the outset of COVID, where COVID was like ending, and Trump had a deal in place. Trump had a plan in place. And many economists will tell you that all Joe Biden had to do was nothing. But instead, he comes in, he's got to put his own stamp on things, and he comes in and he's like, nope, I've got the American Rescue Plan. And so he spent all that money. He gave people money as well, and in aid and all that. And so that led to rampant inflation. And most economists will tell you that Biden's spending did lead to rampant inflation, the American Rescue Plan. That's number one. Joe Biden also, because remember, Joe Biden did a hell of a job governing during the pandemic. He said the pandemic was over. Remember this? Back in September of 2022, as people continued to die. It was still raging. And at the time, Biden was still asking for funding from Congress to battle a pandemic he literally just said was over. He never did meet the vaccination goal that he wanted. He made the military weaker because he forced out all of those good military members because they didn't want to get the experimental vaccine. Remember, there was a shortage of tests. We were all trying to get tests, and we couldn't find the tests. Remember that? And Joe Biden lied, or he was wrong, whatever, about the vaccines because he said that if you get the vaccine, you won't get the virus. That was a complete and utter lie. So I don't know what Tim Walz is smoking, but he's clearly smoking something because he is out there. And here's the funny thing. He is actually talking about, and the Democrats are being challenged for gaslighting during the Biden administration, gaslighting America during the Biden administration. That's part of what is going on these days is all of these books and stories about how everybody within the Democrat Party and the Biden White House knew that Joe Biden was out of it, right? All those books are coming out now. And we all knew this. You didn't need a book. You just had to listen to us. We all knew it. But they kept saying, oh, yeah, no, the president's fine. By the way, the other thing that you just heard Tim Walz say?
None of us are saying we should be soft on the border.
You flippin' liar. None of us says that we should be soft on the border. What in the world were you doing in the 4 years that Joe Biden was in office? You were the epitome of soft on the border. Hell, we didn't even have a border when Joe Biden was in office. Did we? I mean, it was almost like, you know what it was like? It was like they took a big old eraser and just erased the border and let all millions of illegal people not only, of course, cross the border, but also Biden flew them directly into cities across America.
None of us are saying we should be soft on the border.
Well, that is exactly what you did. While lying to the American people, gaslighting the American people. So I'm sorry, I'm not real excited at all about these hands-off events. I'm just not. Because they literally have absolutely no credibility. 7:45, time to check the roads on WTN. Seven to 45 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As far as your weather, we've got light rain today. Eventually, it'll give way to just partly cloudy skies. A high of 60 degrees on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right. Super text line. Oh, you know what? We're talking about 440, right? 4515 says same concrete they used to build the Titan Stadium. Is that true? I wonder if that's true or if he's being facetious. I don't know. Let's see here. 5143 says 440 has been repaired, widened, and resurfaced. Good. Oh, okay. You know what? People are fact-checking me. I love being fact-checked. Guy says, 3180 says, I drive 440 every day. It is fine now. Okay, so that's good.
Did he start with well, Dan, or no?
No, they didn't start with well, Dan. You got to say it right.
Yeah, you have to go. If you're going to correct your Dan Mandis, you have to go well, Dan. That's just
well,
the rule
Dan.
Here. Yeah.
You know, I got well Dan'd by my wife over the weekend.
You know what WTN should do is make a T-shirt that says well, Dan on it.
Oh,
it would sell.
Wouldn't that be fun?
It would actually sell.
They do say that 840 is what's the worst highway now? I guess that would have been my question.
Oh,
then.
24. Hands
you think
down.
24 as far as potholes go?
Yes.
24 is the worst. You know what I want to do? You truckers. Joan, you drive a lot too.
Yeah.
I only really drive on 40 these days. But you truckers and you folks, I got a lot of truckers that listen. Thank you. What is the worst highway now? If it's not 440, what is the new highway to hell in Nashville? It used to be 440. So now, is it 24? Is it 840? It's probably between those two. I don't know about 65.
Ken Weaver has been adamant about his hatred for 24, and I have to agree with him. Anytime I'm on there, it's always just, I don't know, there's just something about it where you can't trust it because an accident is gonna happen. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
8120 says, tell us you don't drive on 440 without telling us. After the reconstruction, Joan read, it's in pretty good shape. I-24 is literally crumbling due to the asphalt type used, a porous type that dramatically reduces spray but isn't very durable. 840 is horrible. 840 is terrible. Hands down, I-24 blows. Absolutely, I-24 says 6,500. Gander, I'm not sure what Gander is, but 840. You know what? That might be maybe one of our next polls. What is the worst highway in Middle Tennessee? I-24 east and west going to Nashville and Clarksville. My problem with the potholes is just it takes them so long to fix. And then, people would tell us that they would call that pothole line. Remember the pothole line, hotline or whatever it was? And people would leave messages or they'd talk to somebody, but it would take a long time for those potholes to get fixed. And so I guess now we're going to be in the pothole season again.
Actually, the worst part of it is they fix potholes during rush hour. What is wrong with them? Like, pick a time, middle of the night, when it's not going to affect so much traffic.
As long
they
as
do it right in the middle of
As
rush
long as
hour.
you don't do it on 40 west in the middle of the night, because that's what I'm driving in, Joan.
Okay, sorry.
They do it on 65 they do it on 40 when I'm driving too. They have like I'm taking off 65 onto 40.
Yep.
They have a left lane closed, and it's not just the left lane. It's 3 lanes, and there's one tiny little you have to yield into the other 40 coming in, and it's like thank God it's like 2 a.m, or else I'm crashing into somebody.
I think Ricky just says, I just drove between 840 and Waldron Road, I-24 in between 840 and Waldron Road. It's the worst stretch of interstate in the Nashville and surrounding areas. Do you know what I was thinking over the holiday? Not over the holiday, over the last several days. Can you imagine if somebody came in, because Nashville is the wedding capital of America, right? At least it seems like that. Can you imagine, Joan, if some poor bride came into Nashville for their wedding, and on Wednesday through Sunday, we had all of that awful weather.
You mean bachelorette parties?
Yeah, well, weddings too. People come in for weddings all the time in Nashville.
I would say, but I get it. Bachelor parties are probably the worst because you see them every single day. There's always a girl with a white cowgirl hat with a veil.
Oh, is there?
You will never not see one. And if you come to Broadway, you'll never not see one.
Joan, can you do a good impersonation of a woo girl?
A woo girl.
She's too classy for that.
Oh, come on. I bet you Joan's got an inner woo girl.
What is a woo girl?
You don't know what a woo girl is? It's just a drunk 20 to 30-year-old. Anytime something exciting happens, they go, woo.
You have it wrong. A woo girl is the girls that are on the big buses that are driving through Nashville.
Are they not in 20 to 30 drunk?
Well, they could be 20 to 30 years old, but they're driving around and they go woo.
Yeah, but and the
got
bars,
their alcohol and all that.
But in the bars, when they hear a song they like, they do woo as well. When they get a free shot, they go woo. It's wooing whenever they woo when they want to woo.
All right, so to me, the official woo girl definition in Middle Tennessee and Nashville are the ones on the buses and, all that where they're at the pedal taverns, all that kind of stuff.
Pedal taverns, yes.
Yeah. I hate pedal taverns. I got to just say.
All righty, enough of that nonsense. 7:50, Joan Jones, what's coming up in the news?
Well, we'll tell you the 2 places where flooding is pretty notable this morning. And is President Trump getting exactly what he wanted? We've got that and more coming up at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, so apparently, just so you know, KGB, Joan, you'll love this. So Apparently, KGB is right and I'm wrong on the definition of a woo girl.
Oh.
Apparently, it is more than just the pedal tavern girls. It is if you go into a bar or what have you. So,
well, there now you know.
Thank you, everyone.
And,
it means the world to me.
The entire audience says, well, Dan, to me yet again. 7:52, Nashville's Morning News. Listen, the spring season is upon us. Right now is the time to start thinking about your outdoor lawn equipment. DT McCall's is helping you out with their annual spring Cub Cadet mower sale. It is going on right now at their Lafayette location till April 12th. And again, if you missed the Lafayette sale, then in Cookeville, it'll be going on between April 18th and the 26th. Now, you should know by now that DT McCall & Sons is ranked as a top Cub Cadet dealer in America. You can find Cub Cadet riding mowers in various sizes, 42 to 72-inch decks for those large areas, as well as Cub Cadet walk-behind mowers for those smaller lots. And when you purchase a Cub Cadet mower from DT McCall's, you'll be getting access to their in-house service department as well. It is nearly impossible to find mower service anywhere else. Check them out, DT McCall's, a large selection of Cub Cadet mowers, free delivery, and an in-house service department. This really is an easy choice. Find more details at dtmccalls.com. $7:55, you know, the weather in Middle Tennessee can get crazy, of course, as we all found out this weekend, which is why you need a backup home standby generator from my friends at the Generator Supercenter. Now, they are the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. Get a free quote and get peace of mind when you have one installed. The Generator Supercenter does feature expert installation and 24-hour monitoring, so they're not going to leave you in the dark. If your neighborhood goes dark, your power is going to stay on with your Generac generator from the Generator Supercenter. Financing, by the way, is available. 615-879-1952. 615-879-1952. Generator Supercenter of Nashville.com.
Thought this could not be done, but...
$7:56, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, the whole conversation, just so we're all clear, that whole conversation that we had about the Woo Girls, I just wanted to see if I could get Joan Jones to go, woo! And I couldn't.
And he can't.
By the way,
we got to get her drunk to do that.
By the way, Joan, Larry says that you are hotter than any of the Woo girls. That's what Larry
wasn't
says.
That nice?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I asked Grok what a Woo girl is.
Okay.
And Grok says the Woo Girls of Nashville. Seems like you're referring to the Woo Girls of Nashville. In case you're curious, the term Woo Girl often describes a lively, enthusiastic woman, typically part of a group who shouts woo. There, I did it. During celebrations and especially bachelorette parties or nights out, in Nashville, they're a well-known phenomenon, often spotted downtown on Broadway, rolling through the streets on party buses, pedal taverns, or even tractors, decked out in cowboy hats and sashes, celebrating with gusto.
All right, so Grok says I'm right.
Yeah.
You got anything to say there, KGB?
Everyone agrees with me on here. And How I Met Your Mother also has the exact definition, so I win.
I trust Grok.
I trust Grok. Didn't Elon come up with Grok? I trust Grok.
Yeah.
So there you go.
No.
You ain't going to win on this one, KGB. Anyway, moving
I'm
right
sorry.
along.
I'm more in the age group of Woo girls anyways. I've experienced them.
Then you must be an expert.
I've seen things, man.
He's been out in the Woo girl wild.
I used to host trivia nights in Broadway. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them. I've lived it. I've survived it.
Okay. Well, very good. Good for you, KGB.
You weren't there, man. You weren't there.
Moving right along, Super Text line is open at 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. Coming up in the next hour, had some folks kind of miss what I was talking about in the 5 o'clock hour. And a lot of these folks are out there protesting, calling Donald Trump a fascist. And I'm going to go through exactly what a fascist is and how Donald Trump is exactly the opposite of what a fascist is. Because they're like, the tenets of fascism, right? And so there's like 10 or 11, that I grokked it, as a matter of fact, Joan. And, they talk about what a fascist is. And unlike the people at these rallies who actually don't know what a fascist is, you look up the tenets of fascism, and Donald Trump is indeed the exact opposite. So we're going to talk about that. Going to talk about a lot more as well. I do have ABC News was using, I don't know if you saw this, Joan. ABC News was using former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers to criticize Donald Trump. Does everybody know that Larry Summers was from the Obama administration?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. What an easy putt for ABC News. So we're going to talk about that. Also, people listen all 4 hours. It is crazy. In the 5 o'clock hour, I teased that an ABC News anchor shanked it big time at 3 o'clock this morning. And people missed it when we talked about it in the 5:35 segment. So
this is good.
We'll talk about that as well straight ahead. Maybe we'll do that at 8:35 with the crisscross handoff. Got a lot more straight ahead. A lot of show remains right here on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Some delays still around that. I'm sorry, it's 8 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Want to let you know that there are still some delays. 24 the westbound side near Joe B. Jackson Parkway, and that's because of an earlier car fire. 41 is also jammed this morning because of folks trying to dump off there and get around that. It's going to take you a few extra minutes to get in this morning. Well, the forecast is pleasant for the first time in days, but the impact of our storms remains. Flooding has impacted wastewater treatment plants in Humphreys, Robertson, Henry, and Decatur counties. And power outages still reported today, too. NES has about 2,200 still in the dark this morning. Now, the Cumberland River in Clarksville is running high, cresting at the moderate flood stage. Forecasters do expect the water levels to begin to recede today. Also, the Duck River in Centerville is still rising in the moderate flood stage as well. The Tennessee River, it's rising. It is in the minor stage for now. The worst of the storms pounded Tennessee on Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Now, TEMA confirms that there were 10 people who died as a result of those storms, all of them in West Tennessee, and the bulk of them occurring in McNairy County. And gardeners, if you've already put your plants in, You'll want to know this. We're expecting a frost tonight and tomorrow night around here as colder weather settles in after those storms passed by. Other news, Nashville police collared an alleged porch pirate yesterday. 18-year-old Carlos Huddleston, accused of trying to steal packages off a porch on Meharry Boulevard. When a neighbor yelled at him to stop, he allegedly pointed a pistol at the neighbor. Police identified Huddleston after his clothing matched the description given by that neighbor. Police found a gun and marijuana on Huddleston at his arrest. A violent attack on a family in New York City over the weekend.
An 11-year-old called 911 Sunday morning and said she and her relatives had been stabbed by their uncle. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said when officers arrived, they heard screams and forced their way inside.
They encountered a man standing near the entrance holding a large meat cleaver covered in blood, and they could see blood on the floor and the walls of the home.
Officers shot the man who was taken to a hospital. The 4 victims all expected to survive. Brian Clark, ABC News, New York.
Market Numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. We're headed into some the rough open here related to President Trump's tariffs on Wall Street with sharp losses in pre-market trading. However, top White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett saying that President Trump is getting exactly what he had been hoping for.
More than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation, but they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff. And so I don't think that you're going to see a big effect on the consumer in the U.S.
Except that the stock markets are down. The Dow futures minus 733 right now. NASDAQ futures minus 386. We've got S&P futures falling 108 with about 27 minutes to go before the open. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Yeah, pretty slow still on 24, the westbound lanes this morning after the Bell Road exit. No, this is after Epps Road in the Beech Grove area. There was a fire there earlier, a crash involving a fire on westbound 24 this morning. There we go. Finally back up on the road, and they've blocked the traffic off again. 24 westbound at Epps Mill Road Exit 89, just once again, they've blocked the roadway. It looks like maybe they're going to clear that wreck out this morning. Anyway, your alternate is going to be 41 as you're heading in, but expect some big delays this morning on 24 if you take westbound in. Creve Hall, 65 in the southbound lanes past Harding Place, exit 78. There's a crash in that spot. Also on 24, the westbound side at Laverne, there's another crash scene this morning, and Antioch at Murfreesboro Pike near Mount View Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
'807 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. How are you? How are you? Welcome on into a Monday. Super text line is open at 615-737-9986. Got a lot of good positive feedback on the radio broadcast today. Some hate listeners as well. Always appreciate everybody checking in. Got to tell you, the hands-off movement, these protests, whatever it is that you want to call them, the more that I watch them, the more that I believe that they are incredibly silly. I want to play you some audio, and I'm going to prove to you why it is that if you're really worried about these protests, you really shouldn't be.
This is what kicking the shit out of fascism looks like.
So that is Fang's boyfriend, Eric Swalwell, and the Democrats, I don't know what the heck they're doing. But they've now decided to start up with this whole fascism thing again. Donald Trump is a fascist. And if you look at the hands-off movements, the protests all across the country, they've all got their little signs, and they say that Donald Trump is a fascist. And so now it's almost become sport for conservative content creators to wade into the mess that is these protests and just start asking legit questions like, okay, so you're carrying a sign that says that Donald Trump is a fascist. What exactly proves that the president is a fascist?
What makes Trump a fascist?
He does things without, I'm not really good into interviews.
Sorry?
He just does everything he wants and, not following laws or, he's a convicted felon, that's all I know.
Yeah, there you go. He's a convicted felon. It's like, I knew he'd try to get to something. I knew he'd land on something. People clearly didn't care about that whole convicted felon nonsense, and it was all BS. But even so, what makes Donald Trump a fascist? Like white power and Nazi and all that stuff.
But your sign says he's a fascist, and I'm just curious what makes him a fascist.
Well, one of the things is that he's trying to control the media, right?
Say that again?
He's trying to control the narrative.
How is he trying to control the media? Doesn't every president try to control the narrative?
They try to control their own narrative, but one of the things that Trump's has done, for example, is the renaming the Gulf of Mexico, and then not allowing the Associated Press to come into the White House.
All right, so let's take them one by one. Number one, air quote, Trump is trying to control the narrative. Everybody does that. Literally every politician in America does that. Number two, Trump won't allow, and again, I'm air quoting, Trump won't allow the Associated Press into the White House. Well, that is debatable because as far as I know, they are allowed into the White House. They're not allowed to attend, I think it's the gaggles and so forth. But, they've had their access restricted. But other media outlets have had their access increased, especially, by the way, new media. The Associated Press refused to acknowledge that Donald Trump renamed the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. And by the way, Biden did the same thing. He revoked like 400 press credentials. And also, let's not forget that Obama's administration actually spied on the Associated Press.
Again, you're calling him a fascist.
Yeah, well,
what makes him a fascist?
One of the core tenets of fascism is creating an enemy, right? And blaming those problems on
What's
the enemy.
that?
So
the paper gave me, yeah.
Who gave you that?
The people that gave me the sign. It's a free sign.
Oh, someone gave you the sign, and then they gave you the handout. So are you reading it now to try to answer the question?
Yeah,
So the guy's got a piece of paper. Somebody gave him a sign and a piece of paper and said, we'll give you $10 an hour to go out and shout, Donald Trump is a fascist. All right. So he's talking about the tenets of being a fascist. So let's go through this, because I'm going to prove to you that Donald Trump is literally the exact opposite of a fascist. Number one, authoritarian leadership. That is a central, charismatic leader that holds absolute power, often portrayed as infallible and embodying the nation's will. Well, no. We have a House of Representatives, we have the Senate, and we have judges that are blocking Donald Trump. So no, Donald Trump is not an authoritarian leader. He's simply not. And he's also said, by the way, that he will abide by the judge's rulings. So if he's some sort of a fascist or some sort of an authoritarian leader, he's got a lot to learn. Nationalism, extreme emphasis on national identity, superiority, and unity, often tied to myths of past greatness or racial purity, rejecting multiculturalism. So I read that, and I'm like, really? Because Donald Trump actually has a very broad base of support. He has doubled his support from previous elections from the black community, for example. Has a whole lot more Hispanic support than he did in 2016 and in 2020. So every tenet of fascism, Donald Trump is the exact opposite. What about suppression of dissent? That's another one, a tenet of fascism. So if you're suppressing of dissent, or your opposition, or you're suppressing political opponents or the media or individuals, and you're crushing them through censorship or propaganda or violence to maintain control and loyalty, I would say to that guy that is saying that Donald Trump is a fascist, literally, the fact that you are out in such great numbers actually proves Donald Trump is not a fascist, because he's not using the military to squash your opposition. Militarism, glorification of war and military strength as expressions of national vitality, which society often organized along martial lines. Well, Donald Trump is actually trying to prevent war. Donald Trump is actually trying to stop the war between Ukraine and Russia. So somebody please tell me again how Donald Trump, as a, air quote, fascist, is glorifying war and military strength. He's not. Now, is he responsibly funding the military? Yeah, that's his job as a president, to keep America safe. Oh, I've got more. I've got a lot more. It is 8:15. Proving how Donald Trump is the exact opposite of a fascist, despite what the hands-off movement will tell you. It is all straight ahead. 8:15, time to check the roads on WTN. $8:15 on Nashville's Morning News. Light rain continues. As far as your high today, it's going to be about 60, giving way to mostly cloudy skies. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. 44 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Going through the tenets of fascism, because the folks on the left and Eric Swalwell and all of those people at the hands-off movement, the protests across the country over the weekend, a lot of them carrying signs talking about how Donald Trump is a fascist. So, just for fun, just for you-know-what's and giggles, I looked up the tenets of fascism. And the more that you think about it, the more clearly Donald Trump is actually the exact opposite of a fascist. anti-liberalism, rejection of democracy, rejecting individual freedoms and parliamentary systems in favor of centralized hierarchical governance. Donald Trump is trying to increase freedoms, not take them away. Donald Trump is trying to allow people to do more of what they want, not less. Anti-liberalism. Clearly something that Donald Trump is not engaged in, trying to take away people's freedoms. Economic corporatism, a state-directed economy where private enterprise exists but is subjugated to national goals, often through collaboration between government and industry elites. Well, Donald Trump is all about deregulation and free market. I mean, that's what Donald Trump is all about. So Donald Trump is not subordinating private enterprise. He's actually trying to help private enterprise by deregulating businesses. That's what he's trying to do. And so it's really silly for, people to say, oh, he's a fascist. Really? Doesn't seem like he is to me. Propaganda and symbolism. Talking about the tenets of fascism. Heavy use of media, rallies, and so forth to unify the populace and promote the regime's ideology. No party benefited more from propaganda than Joe Biden. Do you think Donald Trump benefited from propaganda? No. Joe Biden was protected by the media. Joe Biden was literally using the media to protect him. The media was doing all they could to hide the fact that he clearly had the onset of Alzheimer's. And they covered for him the entire presidency. Let's also not forget, of course, obviously, Hunter's laptop. A lot of that was part of Joe Biden and the mainstream media and his propaganda. I mean, I could make the argument that no president had less propaganda than Donald Trump, because the media was literally doing everything they could to destroy Donald Trump. Scapegoating, blaming societal problems on external or internal enemies, in other words, like minorities or communists or foreigners, to rally support and justify repression. No. Nope. Donald Trump has accurately pinpointed a problem that America has with illegal immigration, and it is a big problem. And if you're going to use that as an example of fascism, then you're calling the vast majority of Americans fascist. Final one here. Rejection of equality. Promotion of a natural hierarchy where certain groups based on class, race, or loyalty are deemed superior. Well, I'm not buying that one either, because Donald Trump has said over and over again that he simply wants all Americans to be able to succeed and achieve the American dream. So I've just gone through, I think, 10 or 11 different tenets of fascism. And very briefly, I mean, I could probably do an entire segment on each one of those, but I've explained. These are the tenets of fascism, and they directly do not apply to Donald Trump. But don't let it don't let facts get in the way of a good talking point.
And then they gave you the handout. So are you reading it now to try to answer the question?
Yeah, but I mean...
Can I see that? Can you hold that up? I'm just curious.
You can have it.
I can have it?
Yeah, you can have it.
Alrighty. So where did you get the sign?
All the way in the gatekeeper's house.
Okay.
Yeah,
the gatekeeper. And that's another one? They gave you two pieces of paper?
Here.
Can I have that one too?
Yes, you can have both.
I mean, it's such a joke as these guys are like, trying to explain their signs, and they actually had no idea that their signs were nowhere near close to the truth. But again, if you're Eric Swalwell, if you're the Democrats, if you're people being paid by George Soros to come out and protest. They like calling Donald Trump a fascist. The thing is, it didn't work the first time. I don't believe that it's going to work this time. 821 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Want to say hey to my buddy Tony from Cabinet Solutions. Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Dan. How about you?
I'm doing great. Happy Monday to you. I know that the Cabinet Solutions, I'm using you guys to remodel my bathroom for my home, but I want to talk about the partner packages that you folks have for general contractors, because I think this makes a lot of sense for people that are remodeling their homes.
Well, absolutely. You know, we've worked with general contractors for a couple of decades now, and we know their challenges. They try to get the prices down to where their customers can afford it and they can be competitive with other builders when they're bidding these houses. Well, we've got a lot of options, including flooring and things that we can bundle with the cabinets that can get very aggressive in the pricing. And so if they want to find out what those packages are and how it could help them, they can get in touch with me, and I can let them know what we'll do that our customers, our competitors just won't do.
Well, listen, you've got price points for all budgets on flooring, closets, and cabinets as well. The website, Tony, mycabinetsolution.com. That's mycabinetsolution.com. And Tony, when they reach out, are they going to, or if they give a call to your warehouse, which is a great showcase for all of the things that you have, should they just ask for you? And what's the phone number?
Well, when they go on that website, they'll find a contact form, or they can find our number, either one. And if they'll fill that contact form out, it goes directly to me, and then I can get them in touch with the designer that they need, depending on what their projects are.
All right, Tony, thank you very much. And again, remember, that's mycabinetsolution.com. It is 8:23 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Hey, Joan.
Hey there. A Clarksville neighborhood is underwater after last week's storms, and history was made on the ice this weekend. We've got more on that coming up here at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
A24 WTN, guys over 40. Listen, if you are running low on energy, maybe you're just feeling off. Low T Center can help you. LowTCenter.com is where you need to go and get started with testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT, and join lots of guys who are going through the same thing as you. You know, they've got clinics all over Nashville, and they're really easy to get to. You walk in, you see a real medical provider, and you get that energy back. It's not a complicated process, just results. And remember, these treatment plans are tailor-made just for you. You can get treatments at the clinic, or you can be treated at home. But either way, you're always going to get the highest quality of care at the Low T Center. And here in the month of April, you can get a free consultation, and if you qualify, treatment is covered by most major insurance. So reclaim that energy and become you again. By the way, they can also help with prescription weight loss options as well. So head on over to lowtcenter.com and book your appointment today. That is lowtcenter.com. Simple, quick, and totally worth it. 828, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super text line is open, 615-737-9986. And let's see here. The guy, Sharon, Red Pill Moms Club. The guy in the audio didn't even know what fascism is, SMH. I mean, that's basically true. And I like the guy who was like, well, I'm not really good at interviews. No, you're not good at defending your point. I mean, that's the whole issue, is that, and another guy said, and I'm getting so many text messages, 615-737-9986. 7832. So the hands up movement is upset because the handouts are starting to stop. Mm-hmm. Yep. Would we now, 0531. So Dan, would we now classify President Trump as an anti-fascist, right? Because you got the anti-racist out there. Remember that whole thing? Well, now maybe we could actually call Donald Trump an anti-fascist. Because I went through all the tenets of fascism, and Donald Trump, and I went through all of them, are literally the exact opposite of what Donald Trump is. So got a lot more straight ahead. We've actually, Joan, we pulled the audio.
Yeah.
I got to work on it. We pulled the audio from ABC News from their 3 o'clock newscast.
Oh, good.
So I'm gonna bleep a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But this is, I'm here to tell you, friends, every news anchor's worst
nightmare.
And it happened at 3 o'clock in the morning here on WTN. I'm going to play it coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It's now 8:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Yeah, things are still a mess on 24 this morning in Christiana. You've got 24 westbound just past Epps Mill Road. There is an obstruction on the roadway, and I do that with finger air quotes. Not really sure what it is, and there are no cameras in that area, so we really can't look at it. Your best bet is to get around it on 41 this morning if you can make your way there. Several rivers and streams still rising in the Nashville listening area, but they are expected to begin receding later today. Now, for the folks in the Woodstock neighborhood in Clarksville, this is the second time their homes have flooded since February.
I told my wife the other day, I said, Woodstock, laughingstock is what we feel like now. And not a tractor, not a pump, not a piece of equipment. Nothing's been done since February 15th.
That man also telling Channel 4 they can't get flood insurance because his neighborhood is not in a flood zone. Keep your eye on the roads for flooding today as well. Well, history was made on the ice yesterday.
Make way for Ovi. Right side to Wilson, centered up. Ovechkin has it. He scores! He scores! That's Capitals Radio. Against the Islanders in New York, the Washington Capitals' Alex Ovechkin passing Wayne Gretzky for most NHL career goals ever, 895. And Ovechkin enjoying a belly flop across the ice, and congrats from teammates and opposing players.
All of you fans, for the whole world, Russian, we did it, boys. We did it.
That from TNT. Joey Waller, ABC Sports.
And by the way, Gretzky was on the ice to congratulate him yesterday, too. Money News brought to you by Beacon Capital Management online at beaconcm.com. Well, stock futures has slumped again this morning just as we're approaching that opening bell. And so right now, after the opening bell, the Dow Jones Industrials are down 1,167 points. NASDAQ falling 577, and the S&P 500 index, that's down 168. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
8:32, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I want to tell you about my friends at Nashville Tent and Awning. Listen, we are full bore into springtime now, friends. What big events do you have planned? If you've got a big corporate event, maybe a family reunion, maybe a wedding, we've got Easter coming up, maybe you've got a big Easter event planned. Whatever you have planned, birthday party, my friends at Nashville Tent and Awning, they can help you with an incredible enclosure that can be installed anywhere. Now, they've been around since 1884. These folks are a Nashville institution, and they've worked with the likes of the Titans, Vanderbilt, and the Grand Ole Opry. Now, they are one of the top companies in Nashville. I want you to think about your backyard. You can actually extend your living space with a backyard enclosure so that you can enjoy it even here in the, heading into springtime and summer when it gets really hot. Now, if you have an event for work coming up, they can help you there as well with a tent or an enclosure. And they've got awnings for any style of building that will improve the look and feel of your home or office. Now, you can get some visuals and check it all out at their website, NTACO. I like to say ntaco.com, 615-329-3701, 615-329-3701. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. Solid craftsmanship and built to last since 1884. Nashville, Tent and Awning. Stop. I'm on the radio. You know, I'm never giving you a compliment again. 8:36, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Every night at homework time, I thank the Lord for Xfinity Internet. We can stay connected with Wi-Fi coverage that delivers the speed we need, and you can too. You know, the fact that I do all kinds of shows at home, on the weekends, overnights, nationally. I do all of this from home. Now, I do a lot of fill-in. Amy, of course, works from home as well. And Riker does a lot of his gaming and a lot of his homework as well, also from home. Listen, our jobs and homework and all that don't wait for the internet to work. You need a reliable connection even when everyone is online and working. Now, me, I do rely on Xfinity. And if there are issues, Xfinity has 24/7 customer service here for you whenever you need it with in-home Wi-Fi support. And by the way, if you're on the go, you can stay connected with over 20 million secure Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots nationwide. So get the best Wi-Fi for your life, whether it's doing homework with the kids or work for the paycheck. Rock solid internet is only a phone call away with Xfinity. To get started, call 1-800-XFINITY. That's 1-800-XFINITY, online, xfinity.com, or drop into an Xfinity store today for more details.
Well, looks like things are still a mess this morning on 24, the eastbound side in Rural Hill before Bell Road, exit 59. There's a crash, and it's blocking the right shoulder. There had been problems this morning on the westbound side, approaching the Murfreesboro area. Looks like what was in the road has now been cleaned up, but there are no cameras in that area, so we can't actually see it. To get around it, of course, you'll use 41. That's also jammed up because everybody's been taken that way this morning. Be careful on the roadways. Legislative Plaza, that's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard at Lamar Alexander Way. That is a crash scene this morning. And another one in Antioch on Murfreesboro Pike near Mount View Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.839 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How are you, friends? Time for the crisscross handoff. And
this name just keeps evolving.
It does. Well, you know what? In
about 6 months, it's going to be unreasonably long.
I know. That's exactly right. Couple of things. You'll love this. This is a, and Joan, you can relate to this as well. So I get a photo from the missus.
Oh, What'd you do?
That was my first reaction, too.
Yeah. And so I'm going to be honest. So a lot was made of my California closets.
Yeah.
Right? They came in.
You sing their praises.
I love California closets. They're great. So they come in my room, because I have my own room at the house. My room.
No girls allowed.
No
sign on the door.
Allowed.
That's how you know
exactly
it stands.
Right. Secret knock.
And so I've got all my clothes in there. Well, we caught up on laundry this weekend, and I did not fold or put away my laundry. I basically shoved it in a corner. I was going to get to it today. Amy sends a photo of all my clothes. Should I show it to the...
Yeah, you got to hold it up.
Oh, for sure.
Should I do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to hold it up to the camera. For people listening on radio, basically, you're going to see hold on. I got to see if, nope, I'm not going to do it.
Oh, why? You got some embarrassing underwear in there?
Literally, my underwear is full front and center, and nobody wants to see that.
All right.
But I will tell you, this took a weird turn. I didn't expect it to go like this. Anyway, bottom line is I've got clothes all over the place. She sends me the picture, and she said, dude, because I told her that I was putting my clothes away.
Oh, man.
She duded me.
For the record, let the record show. Because Dan did show me the picture. I didn't notice the underwear. Let the record also state that. None of the clothes are on the ground. All of them are on what looks like a counter surface on top of the drawers that you have.
Yeah, it's on top.
I would say that's 60% put away.
Would you say that's 60% put away?
I say you're in the right room. Nothing is being destroyed.
I'm in the corner. It's all in the corner.
You're 60% there.
Do you know what I do with laundry? Joan, Chris, I can't be the only one that does this.
You probably are.
So what I do, and KGB, this is a lesson in bachelorhood. Pay attention. So what I do is we don't really own an iron per se. So what I do is if there is a clothing that I'm going to wear, then I'll grab it and I'll put it in a drawer or throw it in a corner. And then when it's time to wear it, I just throw it in the dryer. And I put it on steam refresh, which is a really nice feature.
Oh, that's fancy.
And yeah, and I put a little thing in there and makes it all smell nice and fresh. And that's what I do. And
you put the fabric softeners in there?
I do fabric softeners as well. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's dryer what I do. Sheet?
Dryer sheets, yep. That's what I do. You want to smell my shirt?
I don't. I'll pass.
Whatever.
I'll pass.
Anyway, that's what I do. Is I don't iron my clothes. I actually just throw them in the dryer. I can't be the only one that does that.
No. No,
do you do that?
People do that.
Okay.
I don't necessarily do that, but people do.
All right, people do that. Anyway,
Not this people.
but I told, well, of course not, because you're perfect, Joan. So Amy says, dude, I love you. Hope you're having a good day. I'm going to catch you know what when I get home.
Are you?
Yeah.
Just make the
you know
point.
What? You know what? There's an update.
You're 60% of the way there. Did you tell her that you're 60% of the way done?
No, I didn't.
You should roll with that and see what happens.
I already know what's going to happen. She says, I spent an hour putting your clothes away a month ago. That's why this is a deal.
Oh.
She did. An hour. I can't do anything right. Anyway, whatever. Hey, speaking of not being able to do anything right. Oh, by the way, the other part of this, I hope she's not listening.
Oh,
the other part of this
she is
I'll walk into like Riker's room and clothes like all over the place. And so I'm like, dude.
Are you comparing yourself to a 12-year-old?
He's 11. So I'll be like, dude, put your clothes away. And then here I am with all my clothes in a corner.
His didn't make it on the shelf, though.
That's exactly right.
His made it to the floor.
Check and mate.
All right, here we go. So this happened at 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, you've never done news, right?
No.
Okay. Joan has, I have, KGB has. So this is every newscaster's worst nightmare, 3 o'clock in the morning on WTN. Listen. KGB, would you like to pull my audio up, please? Thank you.
Police officers in New York City shot a man who they say stabbed several of his young relatives.
I felt bad for him. I mean, I did laugh.
Police officers in New York City.
Don't.
Fact check true.
I was going to say, what part of, what he said is untrue?
It's a Freudian slip.
The problem is that he had his gag on. You know, he's like, hey, it's police officers in New York City. Just talk normal.
His gag on?
Yeah.
Oh, like puking.
Yeah,
We call that puking.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
WABC.
That's exactly it.
Police officers in New York City.
He did have a gag on, didn't
Yes.
he? He was puking. We call that do you call it gagging or do you call it puking?
I think puking.
I think puking too.
I think it depends on where you come from in the country. We call it gagging.
Okay, whatever. Anyway,
radio gag.
that may be what they call it in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Little lowbrow out there.
Philadelphia.
The I-24 of New York.
All right, one more time.
Police officers in New York City.
Poor guy.
It'll live on because you won't let it die.
Oh, no. You know what? I shank stuff
And
all the time.
but
so
you know what?
I'm not one to throw stones.
I like it because ABC is just terrible.
Tell us how you really feel,
Ah.
Joe.
No, you know what?
I could go on.
No, some of those anchors are all right. Some of those anchors play it by straight, and others are like Richard Cantu, who we haven't heard from in a while. So we don't know if Richard Cantu is still there or not.
I could look it up.
Why don't you do that? Why don't you grok it? Is Richard Cantu still at ABC?
Oh, there we go. Grok.
In a couple of years, people will be grokking. Did Dan Mandis get fired from WTN? I want you to grok it. See what it says.
A video of you getting carried out by security.
Oh, can I tell you? They're not going to have to carry me out. I'll go skipping down the hallway and out the door.
Oh,
So like
geez.
Breakfast
I'm
Club.
totally kidding.
Breakfast
I'm totally
Club,
kidding.
fist in the air.
No. Yeah, fight.
Don't you
Fight.
That's exactly right. Moving right along. What do you have for this?
What'd you do yesterday? Did you have a big day? Were you guys celebrating? KGB, did you celebrate yesterday?
I was not celebrating anything other than no storms.
I was working.
Oh. Nope, nobody celebrated yesterday?
No. What were we supposed to be celebrating?
Yesterday was International Asexuality Day.
Oh,
you
my
didn't know?
gosh.
You didn't know that?
How did I miss that?
You guys must be bigots.
We must be.
Asexuality is where a person experiences little to no sexual attraction. Asexual people can form deep emotional connections in relationships, but don't experience sexual attraction in the same way as others. And they had a big day yesterday.
Yeah.
They did.
I totally missed it. I bet you local news like it was their first top story.
They led with it.
Right after the hands-off protests.
J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author, she posted on X.
Yeah.
She said, "Happy International Fake Oppression Day to everyone who wants complete strangers to know that they don't fancy a shag."
She's awesome.
I love J.K. Rowling. She is a where is she from? Is she from the UK?
Yeah.
She is a UKian treasure.
Did you know that the asexuals, they got their own flag too?
No.
It's a black stripe, a gray stripe, a white stripe, a purple stripe. And that's you wave that when you don't fancy a shag.
Fun fact, there's also a demisexual flag. Do you know what demisexual is?
No.
Only feeling sexual attraction for an emotional connection, a.k.a. normal people.
So it's just straight with extra steps?
Exactly.
Okay.
They have a purple, white, and gray. I saw it on Tinder one time and I laughed my ass off.
Why were you on Tinder?
Because I'm lonely.
I just wanted to hear you say it.
Wow.
I'm up about it.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Call it like
Gonna
I
be
see
all
it.
right there, Chris.
This took a sad turn.
There's always International Asexuality Day if that doesn't work out.
Yeah, there you go.
You could say this is a choice, damn it.
Never.
Let's see here. Yeah, so I missed that. By the way, I've been talking about Trump's tariffs, of course. I know that you... I don't think Chris is going to be able to recover from that. Did you hear what is it? Wasn't it what's the guy's...
Keir Starmer.
Keir Starmer.
He looks like
there,
somebody that celebrates Asexuality Day, doesn't he?
He is out there now saying that he gets what Donald Trump is doing.
Okay.
And he's ready to negotiate. All these in Vietnam over the weekend. I didn't do everything that I wanted to do today. I ran out of time. But he's saying, Starmer, UK Prime Minister, he is saying, I get why Trump is doing this, and I understand it. And so we are now ready to negotiate. So these countries, they may not like it, but they're coming around. And
it's going to work long term. Like the long term strategy is solid, and people are going to freak out over the market, and they'll probably freak out again today. But then let's zoom out and wait for 2 to 3 months from now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Let's see here. Keith says KGB needs lonelyproducers.com.
Tried it.
And says, poor kiddo, geez. Let's see. Trevor says, score one for Joan. I don't know. What did Joan say?
She called me out.
Oh, did she? What did she?
She said, why are you on Tinder? And I answered appropriately.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with being on Tinder, is there? I don't know. I've never been on it.
I'm just grateful that I just missed the online dating window.
Isn't Tinder for
it's the
hookups?
worst.
Tinder's for hookups, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't think that Tinder was a like a dating.
It started like that.
It's not a dating app. It's a hookup app, you whore.
It's a hit and run app.
Hit and run app. There you go. I did. I called him a hooer. I'm sorry, KGB. I was just kidding.
HR's going to get a phone call right now.
I think I just snorted.
Hey, did you hear what happened to the ABC guy?
Police officers in New York City.
You know what I think of this segment?
New York City.
There you go. That's what I think of this segment. All right. Well, this has been great. What's coming up, Chris?
Caitlin on the text line says, OMG, KGB is cute, all caps. Why is he single?
Well, I think that tells you, though. Okay, let's be honest. And I don't know whether or not KGB is good looking or not, but because I'm a man,
I'm a man.
I'm a man. I don't judge other men's looks. But if KGB is considered good looking, then there must be other issues as to why, Joan, back me up on this. There might be other issues with KGB.
Where did this turn around on me?
You're going there.
3 a.m. work shifts doesn't help.
How old are you? And how long have you been
29.
working this shift? Like 2 months? Not an excuse. #
2 months.
not an excuse.
2 months.
Actually, it has been more than. How long has it been?
It's been like 5, 6.
Wow, has it been that long? Anyway, whatever.
So what about the years before the 5 or 6 months?
Yeah, KGB.
Yeah.
I just think, Joan, good-looking men who don't have a partner. I think there's other issues. Am I wrong on that?
I mean, there could be.
It could be.
Yeah.
All right.
People are weighing in on the real reason for Tinder on the text line.
Oh, are they?
2862 said, I found my wife on Tinder, been married for 7 years. And then 9978 said, my niece installed Tinder and got a random baby out of it. Stay away. So it's
reality.
you're really running you're running the spectrum there.
You just can't meet someone old-fashioned anymore. You can't meet someone like just randomly anymore. It's you because there's that thing of like internet and having someone like if you meet someone at a bar, they could ruin your life on TikTok in a matter of seconds. Like there's just so many negatives now to meeting someone.
How could you get your life? How could you get your life ruined on TikTok?
Yeah.
Oh, I can
you
tell.
ask someone to buy you, ask them to buy you a drink, and all of a sudden they go, "Oh my God, this creepy dude bought me a drink," and put your face on our camera, and then all of a sudden she posts it.
Yeah, but mean people could do that even if you didn't offer to buy them a drink.
Yeah, but they don't post it to thousands of followers back in the day.
No fear on that. You can't have any of that fear. You just got to go for it.
Oh, man. KGB, my brother finds you hot. Oh, super
I
text.
appreciate
Hold on.
the
I want to make
compliment,
sure
but I don't swing
we're
that
not
way.
talking about your brother, Joan. We're talking about somebody
Yeah,
on
I'm
the super
sorry.
text
A
line.
super texter. I was reading a
Okay.
text. Yes.
All right.
So sorry. So funny.
Hey, I'm ready to get married and have kids. Don't get me wrong. I just have to meet them, and I wish I met them differently. Is all.
Wow. 5811. He's single because when they have a disagreement, he has their drinks laced with cyanide.
What the heck?
1012 says he has a 720 FICO score.
This is true.
How does she know?
I said it on the Chad Benson show one time as a joke, and people ran with it.
My FICO score is better than yours.
Oh,
It should be.
Oh, boy.
Oh, here we go with the rich bashing again. I'm not
No,
rich.
you're old. That's why.
Oh,
So much better.
We've been on me about being alone. I can't get an old joke in there.
nobody would accuse you of being rich, Dan.
Whatever. Are we done with this?
Police
show?
officers in New York City.
At least I'm not that guy. Can you imagine being called into an air check meeting and having the boss play that for you?
Why do you have a seat?
How do you think that newscast went? Oh, man. All right, we got to go. 8:54, Nashville's Morning News. All right, so at this point, you got a lot of people thinking that KGB is HOTT hot. So, KGB, you want to give out your email address so people can leave the super text line and go
Of course.
alone?
Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
Should I do this? Are we doing this?
If you want to throw it out there, that's fine.
I got nothing to lose. malinoffj@gmail.com.
Okay, there you go.
Malinoff with 2 F's.
I wasn't going to spell it. They had to try to spell it right first, Joe.
You're about to get catfished, brother.
Oh, Lord. See,
I just want the humor.
That's what I would be afraid of. The cat. All right, Joan, real quick, go.
Yeah. The bright orb in the sky is returning later on today. We do want to tell you about some damages, though, left behind from our repeated rounds of storms. Those stories and more coming up at 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$8.56 on WTN. Avoid the stress of preparing to sell your home with a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. You can skip the hassle of spring cleaning and sell your home fast for maximum value. Dan Mandis here. Don't worry about showings, open houses, or costly repairs. Mark Spain Real Estate's guaranteed offer allows you to bypass the market and receive an all-cash offer and close within days. You know, they've got over 12,500 five-star reviews. You can trust Mark Spain Real Estate to sell your home fast with their guaranteed offer. They've been serving families for nearly 30 years. And I got to tell you, they've got over 67,500 satisfied clients. So spring into action and sell your home with confidence. Find out what your guaranteed offer would be. There's no obligation. 855-299-SOLD, 855-299-SOLD, markspain.com, and start packing.